Hello and welcome to Big Bandit Gaming. I'm your host, Troy, and today we have Izayah,
Rami,
Josh,
What's up?
and Colton.
We're going to the NBA Finals. Woo!
Wait, like physically?
No, are we? Do we have money for that?
I don't know. I mean, I might be able to get a loan and get a ticket, but I won't be going to the finals, unfortunately. But
Yeah, the Dallas
Mavericks are boys.
Yeah, Mavericks.
I've been watching all the games lately, so it's been fun.
Very
not
good.
not all the games, like the past 4 or 5. They've been very fun to watch.
Yeah, but
Nice. I'm convinced that if you live long enough in Texas, at some point, if you aren't into sports, at the end of your life, you'll be into at least one sport.
No. No,
I'm
I
sorry,
refuse.
Josh. It's gonna happen to you. I saw it happen to my parents. They didn't watch a single sports game like the entire time I grew up, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, them Cowboys."
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, like I've never really been into sports, but like just watching a couple of clips of like Luka Doncic, the way he plays with the Mavericks, I'm like, oh, he's fun to watch. And then I started watching, and then they started winning, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna watch like every game. I'm down.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
I had no
That's how it
idea.
starts.
You've revealed something to me about yourself, Colton, and I don't know how to feel.
I've always enjoyed watching basketball, but I always enjoy other things more. But right now, that's like top of the list right now. Just watching like
Gross.
the playoff games. Great.
Josh has feelings. But, gentlemen, I regret to inform you I have a gaming injury. It's probably not a gaming
Oh,
injury.
no.
It's probably not a gaming injury. It's probably just from working at a desk. But I had to buy, pretty much this is what it feels like. I had to buy a brace today for my left
Carpal
hand
tunnel.
because I am getting carpal tunnel so
boy.
bad
Oh
my
last couple
God.
weeks. To the point where like certain games I'm like trying to play and I'm like, I can't play this game right now. Like literally this hurts. And
Dang.
weirdly enough, it's the dual sense hurts my hand a lot more right now than the Xbox controller. So I'm having to figure that out for a little bit. But the brace is helping today. I'm gonna get healed up before Elden Ring. That's my goal.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be tough.
I need to be okay because like even like lightweight games right now, I'm like, oh my god, it hurts so bad. So
if this was the 90s right now and Xbox like advertisement lead was like listening to this podcast and he heard like you say that about the DualSense controllers, he'd be like, oh my god, we need to tell our gamers that like our controllers will heal your arms unlike the DualSense.
I'm not actually me looking it up. Not specifically like off the DualSense controller. I was just looking up like carpal tunnel while gaming or whatever, and a good amount of threads were all based around the DualSense controller. So there's like
Dang,
there's something
okay.
there, I guess. I don't know. It's never hurt me before, but right now it hurts me. So yeah, that's no fun. But are you guys anything else going on? Ooh, Josh, we just talked about something before, which is exciting.
We did?
We did. You're sounding so clear today.
Oh, yeah. I finally got stable internet. I'm not working off my phone's hotspot anymore. So,
Man,
Oh
and
boy.
we can hear it. We can hear it. So crisp.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. And you know what that means? You got to finally
sweet.
play Chivalry with me and Troy.
Look,
Oh, yeah.
I played the tutorial.
Oh man.
I was so
Oh.
lost.
Oh, don't worry about the tutorial. It is like way over long and it seems way more complicated than it is. But I will absolutely play. I'm consistent. Okay, so at this point, I've put like maybe 200 hours into Chivalry,
Wow.
and I can consistently get on the top 3 of my team just about every round. I accidentally became really, really good at Chivalry.
Yeah. And because I got it through Game Pass, and I don't have Game Pass anymore right now, but I did. I got it through Epic like a year ago as a free game, so I wanted to play it again, but I don't have Game Pass, so I downloaded it, and there's no cross progression, so I had to start over with a whole new profile. I was like, man, I got to get my archery rank back up, and man, I loaded up a game, and the first game was pretty average, and then the next game, dude, I killed 14 people in a row without dying with like that level 1 bow and arrow. It was
such a good feeling.
I've never felt so invincible in my life.
When you start dropping people in that game, you're like, I am like a Viking god.
Yeah,
it's really fun. Yeah. So Chivalry is great. I will absolutely play. I'll play Chivalry right after this podcast. Honestly, I'm
I'll
down.
play. Yeah.
I'm down.
I'm down right
All
now.
right. we'll talk about it. We'll try to. Now you know why this podcast won't be 4 hours long because
You were just gonna go play.
chivalry. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our quick game roundup because the main topic of our show is coming up. I'm going to start. So, I played a few hours of both these games. First game I want to talk about is Hellblade 2, which has been a crazy, like following all the Twitter conversation and stuff. It has been dramatic drama
Yeah,
surrounding
very.
this game. It's somewhat undeserved, I think, but also I get why it's happening. But Hellblade 2 is a game I will not finish. I
Oh,
don't like it nearly as much as the first one. I think
dang.
it's really simplified and slow, and it kind of bummed me out. But let me tell you, it is probably the best looking game I've ever played. And probably the most unique thing to me is I played Hellblade 2 completely console or PC free. I played it through GeoForce Now, which was a crazy experience.
Weird.
It's crazy how well it works. I saw like a Digital Foundry video on it, and I was like, no way. And so I loaded up on my Mac, and sure enough, it looks insane. Because I just signed up for a month of the 4080 version, where they use a RTX 4080, and I was able to play Hellblade 2 at like 120 frames per second at 4K with VR, and it looked absolutely insane. And that streaming works so scarily well that like it convinced me that like, oh man, like this is kind of the future happening right here. So yeah, if honestly, if you have like an older PC and you're looking at a game that you don't have access to, look up try GeoForce Now. It's kind of crazy for what you get for the amount of price you get. So yeah,
You're
playing it through
basically
that was the
talking to
weirdest.
me.
Pretty much, yeah. Like if you have an older computer, it just looks crazy good. It's wild and like barely any latency. Yeah, wild. And then I played Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door remake, which is absolutely a remake, like top to bottom. It doesn't even look like the GameCube game, and it looks and sounds freaking amazing. I do plan on playing more, but I'm kind of saving it for like a trip or something. It is like 40 hours long. It's a long game.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's substantial, but the writing is like really funny and amazing. And the mechanics are a little slow to get going, but they keep adding more and more in a way I was super surprised. This Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door was a game I never played. It's almost my last backlog game. Like when I tell you my last backlog game, I mean it. Like it is a game like a backlog list I made like 10 years ago, and this is the last one. So it's kind of weird to play it finally. But yeah. And then last but not least, I am trying Death Stranding again. I fell off of it
Oh,
almost immediately. Only played like 2 hours and was like, oh, I do not want to play this. Like what this game is, I do not want to play this. And then that trailer for D2 came out and was like the craziest Metal Gear thing I'd ever seen. I was like, oh God,
and that got your attention.
I have to go back and play the first one. So I'm doing that. Although my carpal tunnel is not liking it because you have to just
Yeah, don't you
always
have to like,
hold
yeah, like
those
you have to touch
triggers
the
down.
triggers. Yeah.
And
Okay.
right now they had like the force feedback on them too, which just makes it
Oh,
worse.
boy.
So I'm gonna wait. I do plan on playing that throughout the year. I do want to complete it before the second one, and it's the remastered version is really cool. It looks really great on PS5 because I played a little bit of it on PS4 Pro, but doubling the frame rate, being able to run at like 4K and all that stuff, it looks great. So I was like, cool, I get to play the better version, I guess. So there you go. But yeah, that kind of rounds it off for me. Izayah, what have you been up to?
I've been playing a little game. It's called Hades 2. It's becoming my favorite game ever. I, as you guys know, I absolutely loved Hades. I thought it was my game of the year if it didn't come out last year. I think that was like one of our categories. And I think this game, like truly in every sense of the word, is a sequel, despite it being in early access, and it has even more content than the first game. Although there's a lot of unfinished art assets, and clearly there is still missing levels that I'm not going to get fully into, I will say, despite the obvious like early access like give and takes, it is still an all-around fantastic experience that honestly deserves the $30. It truly does. Like right now, if you buy that game, play for a few runs, beat Kronos maybe like 3 times. After like, you feel like you're really comfortable with the mechanics of like the runs through, not necessarily Tartarus, but like to the underground, I would say leave it, come back each major update, and then like just keep coming back for those updates, because they're gonna make this game to where it's like you start now, you'll have pretty much progress done by 1.0 patch. And I really cannot stress how much I love this game. The art, the voice acting, the new characters, the new areas, the new music. Darren Korb is collabing with other artists and like musicians. We got saxophones, we got flutes, we got synths. Oh my fucking god! Every day at work, on my first like 3 weeks of working at Walmart, I am listening to the soundtrack on Spotify. Right now, it's on Spotify, bro. This is easily gonna become like one of my favorite playlists and like songs for this year. Like easily. It is so like invigorating. And then when you get like down to Tartarus, shit goes ham. Now I will say, at first I was like, you know what, this game's pretty hard. I would even argue it's harder than the first game. But I promise you, with every game, there's an ebb and flow. With Hades 2, you're gonna be dying a good few times, even like halfway through a run. That's normal. I want you to understand. You're a growing boy. I love you. And it gets better. Kronos kicked my ass several runs, but I got to a point where I was consistently reaching Kronos, despite having a weaker build. And slowly, the dots started to connect. The neurons started like flare. I was able to like see to the future, like, oh, wait a minute. This special for my sister blades is quite fast. Surely with a hammer, maybe some close range boons could like bump it up. Damn right it did. That shit worked like a charm. The first game, I would argue to you, it's about the duo boons. It's about colliding with these gods and making them two synchronize. No, in this game, honestly, it's more about like how fast can you kill this fucker. You don't need a duo bone. It just matters is if the boons and like upgrades you're getting for a weapon matches a specific button, like your cast, like your special, like your attack. If you're focusing on one of these aspects, I promise you, you're gonna be like blazing through the runs. I promise. It is so fun to get that like taste of god-like power. And I'm just talking about like your path to like to Tartarus. I haven't even talked about what happens up. It goes ham, bro. The route for that one isn't done, but the route for Kronos is completely finished. You can fight him. He has a nice 2 phases. The music goes crazy. There's like little melodies from the first game you can hear through the music. Like, dude, I cannot stress enough how in love I am with this game. I love Hades 2. I'm so excited to see more what Supergiant has. And I think everyone should be playing it. And if you haven't played Hades 1, you need to finish it. Do your 10 runs, beat the game, and then come to Hades 2. I'm so serious. Both fantastic games. And that's it. Go play it. Seriously. That's all I got to say.
Very good, Izayah. I look forward to it. Also, I got to say, sorry. I'm taking Josh's spotlight. I have nothing else to say about Hades 2 except that I will be there at 1.0 and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
But I forgot to throw in a game. I played and beat Stellar Blade, by the way.
Oh yeah.
What is that?
It's great. It's like a solid 8.5, 8 out of 10, but it's my 8 out of
friggin'
10. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's more
it,
to your tastes and whatnot.
yeah, it is like junk. It is the ultimate like Troy junk food game, and that's exactly what that game is, and it's
Yeah,
great.
I'm
It's great.
glad.
It's great. It plays like a dream. The story and characters kind of dumb, but
Okay, I mean, yeah, it's
uh
expected.
yeah, expected, but the all the gameplay stuff is so slick and feels
Oh
so
my
good to
god,
do.
it looks so good. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's great. So yeah, highly recommend Stellar Blade. It's great. Um, all right, Josh, what you been playing?
So Troy, I've been playing the new Prince of Persia game that came out earlier this year. I know before
Yes.
the podcast you said you played like what 3-5 hours?
Yeah, about 10. About
Oh,
yeah.
10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Got that number
question.
wrong.
Did you get the double jump?
I believe I did. I believe I got the double jump. Last thing I did was gosh, I think I fought and got my the spear dude. I forget where I left off, but I got like quite a few
Okay,
abilities.
that's pretty far. I think I'm roughly around there. I'm probably like 10 to 12 hours in. I feel like I'm getting
Then I'm
to
right where you are.
the point of the story, like where it's going. Not that the story is anything to write home about, but I think this game is gonna be like it reminds me a lot of last year. I really liked Lies of P, and you
Mm.
dabbled in it and didn't enjoy that one too much, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I probably just didn't get into it enough, but I haven't felt the need to go back. So,
Me
Yeah.
there.
So coming off of Metroid Dread, I believe I talked about last time.
uh-huh. Yeah.
This was a nice. We were talking about like what Metroidvania I should go to next. We didn't really talk about this one, I guess, because you didn't have any fond thoughts to say about it. But I picked it up because it was on sale for like $30, and I think this is so much better than Metroid Dread. Like this
Really?
game is the exact kind of game that I was looking for.
Mhm.
It blends a lot of what I enjoyed about the Prince of Persia that I played on the GameCube and the PS2, and even there was one I played on the Wii that I know a lot of people didn't like, but I love the element of Prince of Persia, the kind of gymnastic element where you're jumping around, swinging off bars, and trying to avoid obstacles. And this game is loaded with that. Like it's just as much a semi-challenging platformer as it is a like traditional Metroidvania. So if you're looking for something a little bit meatier, I'd say, out of a Metroidvania compared to Metroid Dread, I think this game fills that hole perfectly. I think I like this. Maybe we'll see whenever I get done with it, but the highs that I'm having, I like maybe as much as Hollow Knight.
Oh, dang.
That's pretty
Wow.
big.
That's wild to me, but yes. Yeah, no, I didn't dislike the game. I think Joshua is it's just like I've played a lot of Metroidvanias at this point, like a lot,
Yeah.
and like to me, it's just like okay, this game's not doing anything I haven't seen in other Metroidvanias. Like even its combat system reminds me a lot of like Guacamelee. Its platforming, like
What
that's Ori's deal.
what about Guacamelee? Because I've never gotten to try that one out.
Oh, Guacamelee is all about like it's almost like doing combos and like doing like juggling enemies and
Oh, okay.
grappling. Like it's like a wrestling. Like the combat is very similar
So
in that
so
way.
it sounds like you're
So
saying out of all these great Metroidvanias, it's doing all of it.
it's doing it's doing stuff I've seen in all of them, but without the vibes. I don't
Okay,
like the
I just
characters. I think the
disagree.
art style is very boring. I think some
Wow.
of the art is really nice, but I think all the writing, I
The
think
the writing is
the
nonsense, but
areas are
I
kind
don't
of
think Prince of
boring.
Persia has
Like,
ever
ugh.
been like a well-written series. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I'd never cared more than like, oh, I'm the prince and like I'm saving this one person. Like that's all the story's ever been.
Yeah,
So I don't think it's straying away from that too much. And I like the character designs a lot. I would like to point that out. Like the art style, in my opinion,
sure.
is
Yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
really well done. Maybe not as interesting as the PS3, Xbox 360 Prince of Persia that had like that cell shaded look. Like that was
Oh
really
yeah, the
cool style.
Nolan North one.
But I would say
Yeah.
this is probably at least the second best art style that the series has ever seen.
Sure. No, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. It's just like it's just I don't know. Just nothing. There was nothing specifically for me to like latch onto, but I think overall it's like a good game. It's cool. Yeah.
Last thing I'll say about this is I would like you to point out a Ubisoft game that has a better art style.
Oh, Rayman
Origins.
Legends.
Oh, by the same like developers, like the same team.
Oh.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Well, there you go. Because I
Okay.
think because Legends has like legendary, like it has the soundtrack. Yeah, no.
I actually like the music in this game. Anyway, both great games. Highly recommend Rayman Legends and Origins and Prince of Persia.
I'm glad you're liking it. I'm glad you bought it because it sounds like not a ton of people did, which is the only bummer, I think.
I would definitely buy that at some point.
It's clearly like a low budget game for them.
Yeah.
Like the animations are kind of not there all the time. Like the mouth movements, things like that. Anyway, now to a game I did not like. Another Crab's Treasure. I played it on Game Pass. It's, I guess, trying to be a Souls-like. It, it's kind of like if you typed in, like, Souls-like on Dreams on the PS4. That's kind of what you're getting out of this game.
That's funny. It does kind of look like that.
The art assets are garbage. Oh, like they're literally garbage. Like most of what's in the game is like made out of cardboard and like trash, like cups and straws or whatever. It's not fun. The combat is good at times. There's the music. There's like one good track, but it plays a lot during combat encounters. The characters are stupid and the writing is immature and silly, but I guess maybe if you're like a fan of like Rick and Morty or something, you might enjoy elements of it. I don't know. I liked rolling around as a can, but I also felt like maybe I wasn't rolling fast enough for it to really be an effective way to move around. The grappling hook was cool. I'm digging. Hold on.
I'll tell you.
I think I saw a video. Is this true or not? That they, as a joke, the developers are like, "Hey, let's add like an accessibility mode where it basically makes the game really easy. Where instead of like a shell, you have a gun, and it's just like one hit kills everything in the game."
Yes, I have to, I guess, come clean. I did not try the give Krill a gun mode or whatever. But I don't believe that would change my opinion too much.
Okay. I was just curious if that was actually true or not, but that's
I mean,
funny.
like, it's like, oh, if it's a way to like get through and see the story, but I don't know what story you're trying to see. Like, it's a very weak game, clearly done by a small team, but I don't think they nailed the one thing they needed to nail, and that's the Souls combat. Like, it's just such a saturated market now for Souls games.
Dude, yeah. That's like that's what I was just saying about Stellar Blade. Like everything's kind of like near adjacent in a way where you're like, oh man, you don't go for like the vibiest game of all time. you know, try that's that, but the combat is like A+ right there.
I think a lot of times for me at least, what you have to nail is the combat or like any element of the gameplay is what I'm looking for. As in Prince of Persia, I felt like the movement, the fluidity of like jumping around enemies and attacking and jumping around obstacles in that game is super fun. And in Another Crab's Treasure, I feel like a lot of times I feel slower or it feels clunkier than I would want it to. It just doesn't feel like I'm making the right movements and adjustments that I feel like I should have access to.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't play that one. Play Prince of Persia.
Yeah, I played like a little tiny bit of it, and I think the only thing I thought was kind of funny is the way you get stronger in that game is like you purge microplastics from your body, which is kind of funny.
Is
But
that what you're doing?
other than that, yeah,
never read
that's
it.
what the tutorial said. That like as
I
you're
didn't read
leveling
it.
up, you're like, yeah, that's how you're getting stronger. You're leveling up by like purging microplastics out of yourself, which is good. But other than
Yeah, I
that, I was like, meh,
misinterpreted. I thought you were just putting them in your body.
yeah,
I thought you were like inhaling microplastics.
yeah. It's like the opposite. You're like
Okay.
purifying yourself.
You know what? That's cool.
But there you go. That's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Josh, for that. And Colton, what you been up to?
Well, like I said earlier, I've been watching a lot of basketball. So, like the past week, I haven't done a whole lot because there'll be like a playoff game, and I get off work, I watch that, and then all of a sudden it's 9:30, go to bed. The next day, we got to go to dinner. Somebody's in town, so But like the past like week and a half, maybe I haven't been able to play much. But before then, I was playing a lot of Fallout 4 because the Fallout show got me in a Fallout mood, and it seems like it did to a lot of people because I had quite a few people like on my like in my Steam friend list that anytime I got on, there were like 3 or 4 other people also on Fallout 4, and it was always kind of fun to like jump back in again and with the new update, it I feel like it helped a lot. I mean, a lot of people say it did fix a lot of bugs, but it introduced other smaller bugs, and then they had another update that fixed that. But I think it's running better than it ever has. So it's been fun to get back in that. And with all the Hades 2 talk, I decided to finally jump into the first Hades because I liked that God of War DLC a lot. So I have not beat it yet, but I'm probably, I think I'm on my 19th or 20th run, I believe.
Oh, sure.
I don't know.
Have you gone?
To that third place, the
Elysium.
Yes, and I think I got all the way to like the final boss of that place, and then I died.
That is very tough. It's gonna like make you gnaw your flesh off for a bit, but I promise it gets better.
Now I'm in the. I finally unlocked the like the aspect of the weapons where you can like upgrade the weapons like individually now. Like I finally just got that, so now I just have to grind a little bit to upgrade. Some of the weapons that I've been using more than the others, and then I'm sure I get past it.
Oh yeah,
at some point.
Nice.
I've been playing that. I played Content Warning for the first time a couple like 2 weeks ago. That was pretty fun. And then we've also been playing quite a bit of like the
multiplayer
co-op. Yeah, the co-op Stardew Valley. Because my uncle was talking about Stardew Valley. And we were kind of. My uncle's a huge Stardew. He's got like 2,000 hours in the game, and we were talking about it at like a family gathering. And then we got home like the next day, and all of a sudden on my Steam account, he gifted me, my brother, I think my other brother Marcus, and then 2 of my cousins, and then he also gifted Jackson a copy, and he gifted Dalton a copy. He gifted like 7 of us a copy of Stardew Valley on Steam.
He was very sweet. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, then he sent us all a message. He's like, all right, we're doing a co-op. We're starting a co-op farm tonight. So we had like an 8-person farm going, and we actually I think we got all the way through year 1. I think we're in like spring year 2 now. So that's also been pretty fun. I've always wanted to jump in and try the co-op Stardew Valley. I'm glad I was finally able to get to convince Dalton to play. He always told me it didn't look like a game he would like. And then all of a sudden he's playing it, and he has his own farm now that he's in like year 3 or 4 or something. So he fell into the Stardew hole just like I did like 3 years ago.
Yep.
So that's been pretty fun.
Stardew is like, I would say it's like it's like at an echelon now where I like put it right along like Minecraft and like World of Warcraft. Like,
oh, dude, yes,
like all time, like very important games. Like that is the cozy game of all time. Is
and it's so easy. So. I feel like it's so easy to forget that it's just one dude.
Yeah,
like with the amount of like updates and with how like polished the game is, like I think it's crazy it's
a crazy game
to even think about that.
Not my type of game, but it is crazy. I tried to I bought it we downloaded it for Sam maybe a year and a half ago, and she just didn't like the time limits and stuff. She likes Animal Crossing where she can just kind of mosey around and not be rushed, and I don't think she actually likes to farm.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
that's a problem. But yeah, so yeah, I was like, oh, you people really love this game, but yeah. Even though I'm not, it's not my type of game. It is. Yeah, that's a crazy game.
It is
All
fun.
right. Anything else you guys can think of that you played or you want to talk about? Oh God, I didn't. Oh yeah, no, we did talk about. For a second there, I forgot what we did last podcast, and I'm like, did I even talk about Final Fantasy VII
Oh
Rebirth?
yeah.
I
Oh
did.
my God.
Yes, we're good.
I tried Manor Lords on the PC.
Oh yeah.
I will just say I look forward to to its full release.
Cool.
Huh.
What kind of game is it? I'm because I've
Oh,
seen buzz about it, but
it's like what is it? It's like a
It's like a Valheim sort of
no,
thing,
it's like
or
a town building, city building management thing with some like
oh sure,
combat.
okay,
It looks fun.
Kind of
It
like
is super detailed, and I appreciate that.
Nice.
that's fun. Okay, cool. I can see why that got some buzz then for sure. All right. Well then, you guys ready to get to it? The main event.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I gotta say, so this podcast you'll see in the title, it is a Big Bandit plays, and it is Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. And unlike our last playthrough of a game,
Oh my
it
god.
looks like we're all played it. We're all able to beat it.
Yay.
I'm not sure what anyone's feelings are on it, but probably if you didn't love it, at least you're not scarred by it.
It was
So,
very
um,
short.
yes, that
Yeah,
was
that was nice.
that was certainly the thinking. I was like, literally, if you figured out we needed to record in 5 hours, you could beat that game and
Yeah.
still like write notes.
I played it last night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. It's honestly, that's probably the right way to go. I just got too excited, so I beat it like weeks ago. So I was like, I need to
Bro, a
like,
3-hour game.
yeah, exactly. I was like, man, I should have done it when it was a little tiny bit fresher. But you guys will. I'm very curious to see what you guys
Well,
think. So are you guys ready to jump in?
yes, but I
Mhm.
want
I
to
believe so.
ask
All right,
something
all
real
right.
quick.
What's up? What's up?
Should we first like nail down what versions do we all play?
I will get into that.
Okay.
So, yeah, we will get
Yeah.
into that.
That's
That'll
where
that'll
to stand.
that'll
Yeah.
come a little more into it. But first, yes. So we all played a Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, and real quick, I'm not gonna bore you guys. I do want to go over kind of what its development history is,
Oh,
because do you guys kind of know who even developed it, what
yes.
its background is? Okay,
No.
okay. So I knew who developed it, but I forgot that this wasn't a single like. Okay, we'll talk about it. So what I did forget is this was Joseph Ferris's first game.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know, Joseph Ferris did A Way Out and It Takes Two. He is the
I
guy
see
that
that.
has that legendary Game Awards speech about the Oscars.
Yep.
Yep.
That's kind of where he became like a household gaming name, was that like literally unhinged speak. But this game, I totally forgot about this, was actually developed by Starbreeze Studios.
hmm
So this was before he actually had a studio. And Starbreeze, they did Chronicles of Riddick games on the original Xbox. They did The Darkness, which was like a 360 PS3 shooter, and they did Payday. Payday 2. So that's the biggest thing Starbreeze
Don't
has
forget
done.
Syndicate.
Yes, and Syndicate. Everyone forgets about Syndicate.
Yeah.
EA wants to forget about Syndicate. Syndicate's cool. But yeah, I totally forgot about that. I was like, oh, that's right. Starbreeze did develop this game. But yes, this was Joseph Ferris's first game. He was just a movie director before this. And what I didn't know about this game was kind of inspired on how he grew up, his experience growing up, because he grew up during the Lebanese Civil War. So that kind of puts in perspective maybe the tone of that game. If you weren't
Yeah.
expecting,
Yeah.
if I that's why I kind of wanted you guys to go blind into this game, because from the outset you're like, oh, this seems pleasant. um, but yes, ooh, sorry. All right. I know, I just almost died. So yeah, that is kind of the background. So let me so this game originally came out on Xbox 360. Do you guys remember the Summer of Arcade?
Yeah.
They used to do back in the day.
Mhm.
Used to be when Xbox really cared about indie games, and they would kind of exclusively get one or two, like 2 or 3 indie games that they would showcase, and this was one of them. So this game originally came out in August 2013, and I think it was just a month exclusive because it came out on PS3 and PC just a month later.
Yeah.
And then I played it that Christmas after hearing Giant Bomb's like kind of Game of the Year podcast. And I was like, oh, this is something worth actually playing. Okay, cool. I will do that. So the rights to this game were later sold to 505 Games, who then published it and released ports to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, which, from what we heard before, one of us played one of those ports. So it was originally a PS3 game, ported to PS4, and then to Switch. They also did the Switch, and Switch was the first port that would allow you to play in co-op,
Oh,
which
okay.
is a weird addition to that game because a lot of this game kind of breaks if you weren't controlling both for gameplay and story reasons. So that would be a
Uh,
weird way to play this game. It'd
That
be
would
a
be,
weird way to play
I
this game.
actually kept thinking, I wish this was co-op.
Well, it is, but yeah. Technically it wasn't developed to be that way.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. What do you think? I know you guys didn't play the original, but think back to 2013, kind of get in that mindset. We're in like PS3, 360 generation. This is an indie game, just to kind of put it in perspective. What do you think this game scored on Metacritic?
I already spoiled myself before then. I would say
Um,
80.
Okay.
Wait, what?
But
Well,
I
let
would
them
just
answer
say
first, Isaiah, then.
okay.
87.
Back then, I would think maybe. Oh, I don't know. Huh. Hmm. Hmm. Real big, like Call of Duty days.
Call of Duty.
Mm.
Yeah, but like,
but-
didn't Limbo already came out and everything, right? Like,
Oh yeah. This
Yeah.
is well in. This 2013, like a ton
Yeah.
of. This is
hey,
like.
I don't know when Limbo
I feel
came
like
out.
I feel like it's lower than what I want to say. I'm gonna say 7.8.
78. All
I said
right.
87.
And Isaiah,
you
you
did.
said 80.
Whoops.
You look
No, like before even looking, I
No.
thought, Hey, leave me alone. before it came out, I would say 80.
80. Okay.
Before I checked
Cool.
it.
Well, congratulations, Josh. The game scored an 86. So
Oh,
just
okay.
off of
Okay.
1 point, which is
Nice.
that is high. But you have to think like this is still pretty early days of of indie games. And this was I would say this was a decently ambitious indie game
Yeah,
for this era,
It's very fresh.
any indie game that did well, it stood out because there was only like 10 that anyone could ever think of at any
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of them, I mean, a lot of indie games at this point weren't very even story centric unless you were like a Telltale game or something,
Sure.
And even that I wouldn't even call indie at that point. All right. One last question. What do you guys think? So I pulled this data. How many units do you think it sold by January
Ooh.
2015? So this was 2
2
years into it
years.
being out.
5 million.
No.
I would say 400,000.
Ooh, that's
Okay.
That's good. I'm gonna say, shoot, 600,000.
401,000.
600,000. Well, congratulations, Josh, again, even though he did the
What?
Price is Right thing by just going higher. But you
it.
did it by quite a bit. It sold 800,000 units in its first
Nice.
2 years, which I feel like even
Dang,
now, if an
okay.
indie game sold that much, that would be like a huge success. So, yeah, I if I remember, the reason I played it is just like word of mouth on the game was really, really good at the time. It just hit a lot of people. Less the game itself and just the story and the characters, which we'll get to. And then last but not least, this remake that I think a good amount of us played. It was announced at the 2023 Game Awards. I remember that. So just like a few months ago. And it was developed by an Italian developer called Avant Garden SRL. And I looked up what they had done, and super weird. The game they're most known for is Murasaki Baby, which is a PlayStation Vita exclusive. game.
What the heck?
Weird.
If you guys want to look up a Murasaki Baby real quick, it was like a weird kind of Tim Burton-esque indie game where you like you controlled this girl by like dragging things around the screen with the via the touch screen. It was really cool looking, but I barely anyone played it and not a ton of people remember it. But Murasaki Baby, it was like it was actually shown during like one of Sony's E3 conferences and stuff. So they were
Oh, this is a strange looking game.
Oh yeah, it's a weird one. So I was like, oh, that's so weird that this developer's still around, and their biggest claim to fame is Murasaki Baby, and now this remake, which I thought was really really well done. So yeah, that is just a quick development history, and I have a question for you guys. What is I mean, I guess you guys kind of got the gist from us just talking, but what's your history with this game before I said, hey, we should play this and Joseph Fares's other works?
I thought
Go ahead.
immediately. Yeah, I was just saying, like, I thought immediately when I looked at the cover of the game, like, even before I like heard you utter the magical words of a brother of two, I don't know, brothers, tale of two sons. I was like, this is clearly like a clear indie project. Like, I feel like I look at this character designs and like what it looks like. I'm just like, yeah, I don't see like a AAA budget studio like just immediately working on this. I think it's like a humble beginning for a studio, and it looked like it. So I don't know. I think that was kind of spot on.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. I keep calling it an indie game, but Starbreeze is not an indie studio, so
Are
I
they
like to
not?
think of it maybe it's like a side project. But yeah, I get that.
Well, I guess they were published by EA.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's some money. There is some like publishing and marketing, and they got onto Xbox, Summer of Games, which is kind of a big
Yeah.
deal.
Did you say this one was 505 or the remake?
So the original was Starbreeze, and I think you're right. It was probably EA at that point who did it, but they sold the rights to 505, who did
Okay.
all the ports past this point. So yes.
Mm.
But yeah, I'll ask the question again. What was kind of your history with the game and Joseph Fares's other works?
Well, I've
Ooh.
this is a game I've always heard about. I've always seen the cover, and I've heard people talk about, and
Yeah.
I never got anything spoiled, which
Which
was
is good.
good. Yeah, it's good. So I always told myself I would play it eventually because it sounded like the way people talked about it, it sounded like a game I would like. But I just never got around to. I just think I forgot about it for like years at a time, and then someone would say it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's that game I never played. So I was happy to get to play it now. But from his work, I've actually never played any of his games.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah,
Wow, Josh, specifically, I feel like Josh, you guys should just play It Takes Two together.
Probably.
Honestly, like now that you have your internet back,
Yeah.
it's very interesting that he just continued to like want to make, even though this game wasn't made to be a co-op game, you are controlling two
yeah.
characters, and all his games have been like variations of that, but more like co-op centric. A Way Out was kind of a miss for most people, but obviously It Takes Two won the Game Awards,
hmm
and is I over time I've it's grown on me. I think the characters and writing. So the beauty of this game is none of the characters actually have real dialogue.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, because
I
that's the
so
weakest part of all his other games. Is the dialogue is so it's bad.
Yeah,
It's bad.
I thought that was cool too. I initially did not know that was the case. I immediately went to the settings real quick. I was like, did I buy the wrong version? Is there a setting I accidentally turned on? And then
Yeah.
after like a quick Google, or not
Like
Google search, after like I looked around, I was like, wait a minute, I don't see like there's like hardly any settings here. So I just continued the game and I was like, wait, that does not sound like a real language. And then I looked it up. And and it makes sense. He said he grew up in the Lebanese Civil War. 'Cause I think what I googled, it said it's a Lebanese inspired like gibberish language or something. It kind of sounded like the Sim, like the Sims.
It did sound like
Whatever.
Simlish a little.
like Simlish.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Simlish,
say,
yeah.
yeah. It was probably at the end of the day like a cost saving measure, but it just turns out that even artistically, it works out really well with the game, and you kind of get the emotion of it without needing like spoken dialogue. So, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. All right,
Well,
but
so
yes.
I
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna
go on.
say, I did have everything spoiled for me well before we played it. So
Really? Wow.
I've known the story of this game for a long time, just because I listened to way too many podcasts.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that. By this point, it's kind of off the table, spoiler
Yeah,
wise.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I get that. But I'm interested to get into your thoughts on the game, knowing kind of what it's building
Oh,
to. Then,
you
Josh,
hate
too.
my thoughts on games.
But yes. All right. I didn't say I would agree with it, Josh.
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. All right. So I want to get okay. I guess I didn't talk about my history. I think I played like a few minutes of A Way Out and was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this at all. But I really like this game. That's why I brought it up. And it'd been a while since I had played it. Not since 2014. Early 2014. But and It Takes Two is a game best played in more sessions than longer sessions. It is so much longer than you think it is, but it has amazing art style and really, really snappy platforming controls. Josh, I feel like you would really appreciate the way that game feels. It is
Probably.
one of the best feeling platformers I've played in a long
The
time.
the characters just seem insufferable.
That's the thing you got to get past. The
Right, right.
writing is bad. But other than that, it's you're mostly playing a game, so it's fun. But yeah, it kind of mixed feelings with his later works afterwards. But Brothers, I personally think still holds up really well. But all right, I want to know what versions did you guys play? Because I just said there's the original, there's the ports, and then there's the remake.
Okay, I guess I'll say it. Fine. I did the Game Pass just port of
Nice.
Brothers, and I thought it ran fine. But my biggest problem was easily just how little and scarce those customization options are. Like I have like what is the monitor you gave me, Troy? That
Oh,
like
you have like a
wide curve.
1440p
Yeah, this
like
shit.
high
That
frame
port is
rate.
not working. That port is not working with this kind of monitor. It's not. It's like you get like the height of it. The width of it though is not reaching like the ends of my monitor. It's like a
Oh,
black box.
interesting.
Yeah. So like when it comes to cutscenes, I'm like watching an even like smaller screen. And I'm just like, all right, this is fine.
So you played the PC
That's
port of
weird.
the remaster. So yeah, I've never played those,
I,
but
I
I'm
also
sure
played the PC port.
of the remake or the original.
Original.
Yeah.
The original. Okay. Colton.
Let's go ahead and just get into my biggest regret. I did the remake.
Yes.
Yes, and it was not great. Did not run very well.
I have a question for you. So I'm guessing you played on the PS5.
No, I played it on the PC.
Oh, on your PC.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that's probably not a great idea because that is a full-fledged Unreal Engine 5 game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I thought you meant you played it on the PS5 and had performance issues, which you can have if you put it on a certain mode. But
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah, I played it on my Series X specifically because how detailed should I get in this? Do you guys want to get nerdy for 20, 30 seconds?
20
I
seconds.
20 seconds. You're going to give me 20
35
seconds?
max.
20 seconds. All
Yeah,
right.
starting
Reason
clock.
I picked the Series X version is because when you can force Series X to output 120 hertz no matter what the content is, which then extends the VRR window to like 36 instead of PS5's 48, unless they develop it to go lower. So I played the unlocked performance mode on Series X, and it kind of drops between like 60 and 40 on like heavier modes. But because of the 120 hertz output and VRR in my screen, it just looked smooth the entire time and looked awesome and ran great. So thank you, Digital Foundry, for letting me know which version to play and which would work with my display.
Yeah, that's something I wish I did. Is did a little bit of research instead of just buying it straight on Steam like that.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that to be like a top of the line like visual game, but it is. It uses Lumen. It uses like all of Unreal Engine 5's like really intense new stuff. And if you're running it on at least one of the consoles on like its graphics quality, unless you have like a 2.1 display, then you can run it unlocked and it looks great. But yeah, I like I said, I played this. Obviously, I played the original one on like original hardware, which probably ran like 20 to 30 frames per second. Like not, whatever. But this new version, yeah, I was so impressed by the way it looked. Like all the material work and oh man, it looks freaking stunning. Like
I,
stunning.
I think the character models kind of stuck. Like,
Eh,
well, sorry, the style is worse than the original to me.
Yeah, sure. It's a little less stylized, but you do get a little bit more expression, and the
Weird.
cutscenes are definitely much more directed. Like there's like depth of field going on. So I mean, yeah, I would encourage you guys afterwards if you're not gonna play the remake, at least look at the Digital Foundry video and just look at how good that game looks. On like next gen or hardware like a good PC. It looks amazing. So cool. That's I think we all played a slightly different way then. That's kind of crazy. But here we go. Well, I guess Josh and Isaiah, you guys
I
played
have a
the
good
same way.
monitor though. I didn't have any issues.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Here we go. All right. So now that we are there, before we get into the game and story, because I think that's going to be a kind of larger part of this conversation, I want to know what you guys thought of the unique control setup. Because personally, the control setup, what first seems like, oh, this is just a clever way to do puzzles and this is just the way this game plays, feeds into the story kind of in an unexpected ways, which I think is kind of the beauty of it. Because I
Mhm.
would say this control setup is still clunky. It was clunky back then. It's still clunky now. But considering what they do with it within the story and everything, I can forgive a lot of that.
I could
Um,
also like I will add on top of that and say I think they knew how clunky this would be. I feel like most developers would know like if their controls are clunky, and so they would have like some sort of like nuance to it. Like for example, in Resident Evil 4, you know how like you when you're like aiming and stuff, it doesn't feel right. You have to stop moving and then look around. And when you have such a tight camera on your shoulder, what's gonna happen when they're behind you? Oh, easily just hold back and press a button and boom, flip around. In this game, I feel like most levels and like challenges as you progress will work around like the clunkiness and won't push you to divert your attention super far because you really are having to like manage two characters at once, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't get to that point. It just feels a little weird sometimes when you're like realizing, oh wait, the little brother is the right stick but he's on my left, like visually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like oh shit, I need to switch around.
I found myself doing that a lot of the times too, was trying to align them with the sticks so I didn't
Mhm.
get
Yeah.
crossed. And then
Me too.
story wise, I don't know about you guys, but having played the game before, I always had the big brother trying to lead just because in my head that was like
Yeah.
canon,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys found yourself doing that too.
I
Uh-huh.
did.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
did. It felt wrong when the little brother was in front.
Like,
Yep.
all
Yeah.
right,
What are you
all
doing
right,
over
little
there?
buddy, get back.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing, and to your point, Isaiah, I feel like that's why the controls are so simplified. Because if you were
Yeah.
trying to do like button controls per
Oh
brother,
yeah, dude.
like past just a single action button, it would get like unwieldy.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's funny. I don't. Can you guys think of another game that you control characters like this
Yes.
with? I can think of one other, and it was just like a sequence. I think it was Josh. I can't remember if it was the first Nino Kuni. I think it was the second one where there was like a puzzle room where you had to control two characters exactly
Oh,
like
I
this
have
game.
no idea.
It was in Nino Kuni too, but I'm sure there's another one I'm not
Oh,
thinking
I
of.
can easily tell you right now it's the Whirlwinds with you because you control the stylus and unlike trigger,
Oh,
the
sure.
trigger for like the bottom and like the buttons and like other trigger for like the top, and I loved it so much.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. The Nino Kuni one, when I tell you, it's exactly like your one character's on this stick with the other character's on that stick. Like,
It's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, any other thoughts about like controlling them, doing puzzles? Like I said, I think having just one action per made it a lot less frustrating. You know?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think that I appreciated it a little more than I expected, because whenever I would have like difficulty maneuvering both characters on the screen, I would like stop with one and the other would go do its
Mhm.
thing, and it felt like in that moment that character had an idea and the other one was just waiting for his brother to tell him what to do. So
Yeah.
and I never like felt taken out of it because I had to slow down with one and readjust.
Yeah, and I think to kind of what we said earlier, I think them not having like voice lines and stuff, it gives you like a little more, like you get to play out the brothers. Like, you
Yeah.
know, if every time you went to like a ledge and your brother said, "I'll go first," you know, or
Yeah.
whatever. But it seems like you kind of like intuit that, and that's a cool point, Josh. It's like when they're trying to figure out a puzzle, you're like one of them goes towards like, "Oh, I can fit through. I'm gonna
And
stop,"
then
you know.
sometimes they can't do something, and you're like, "Ooh, okay, you do this," and it's like you move over to the other brother, and he gets to be the one to solve it.
I think
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I do like. I actually I was getting a little frustrated. Like I wasn't sure how much I was gonna like it because of that. And then I think the first thing that happened like that I ran into, like we were trying to get the guy to, I think it was the guy to lower the bridge or something, and he wouldn't wake
Mhm.
up. The big brother couldn't wake him up. And then I was like, what if the little brother did it? And he just friggin' splashed him with water.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, think outside the box, little bro. That's cool. And then
Yeah.
then now he's awake. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe this is kind of a unique, cool control setup.
Yeah. And that kind of, I think that's kind of leads us into let's get into the game then, because we'll talk about more about that village sequence and kind of you figuring out, oh, this is kind of how this game works, you know?
Yeah.
I think the village sequence is a really good tutorial on everything you're gonna need because yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But as far as the game's opening, because I Josh, you knew kind of how dark the story would get, or how
Yeah.
melancholy is probably the better word for it.
Yeah.
Um, gets, but what about you and I? Because this game it opens up by like a little flashback to the brother at his mom's grave.
Little brother, right?
Little brother, yeah, and he's remembering like it looks like they might have been at sea and like fishing or something, and his mom went overboard. So right
And he
away was
wouldn't.
that.
Sorry.
I was just
I
say,
was-
like, what do you guys think of like the opening of the game?
I didn't. It didn't click with me what exactly happened. I only understood it as, oh, the mother went overboard and he couldn't, and like little brother just couldn't save her, and now he's like mourning that loss, like very heavily because it was only him on the boat. And am I allowed to like, kind of make a connection to the ending, or do I need to wait for that?
No, this is, if you're listening to this, hopefully you've played the game or you don't care
Okay,
that
great.
much. So
I didn't realize a lot about what the little brother and big brother's dynamic is. One does something a bit more nimble and flexible, and one has the heavier and sturdy, like kind of like weight to it all. And what I realized is that the little brother felt weak. He's felt weak and small this entire game, and that insecurity was like is like translated through gameplay of like having to go on the brother's back during the water sequences, having to
Mhm.
rely on him often. And the biggest difference is that like the brother felt weak, and he felt too weak to save his own mother. And he hated that when like obviously like towards the end of the game where he has to like depend on himself. And I didn't think about it until like I got to that part, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally a becoming of a man. Like this little boy becoming a man. Like it's
Yeah, you are jumping ahead, but yes,
yeah.
yes, you are starting to explain the entire journey of this game and what the kind of like
I'm sorry.
unveiling at the end, but it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, no, that's a good point because, during the game, it kind of explains like why the brother might not have ever learned to swim or is scared of the water, because I think that's
Sure.
the biggest way that the little brother kind of depends on the big brother is all those swimming sequences. Like
Right.
you can't go forward unless he is on your back, little
Right.
brother's on his. Big Brother's back. But yeah, I mean, it opens up, and then you're starting to take your like sick father down the hill, and I don't know about you guys, but like, like, oh, that's sad. And oh, that's interesting. But you still get the idea, especially throughout the first village, that you're like, oh, this is going to be like a peppy little adventure,
Yeah.
Because like the music is nice. Oh, I didn't even mention this. The remake, they redid all the music with like an orchestra. Freaking incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. The remastered music is really good. But what I will say is like, yeah, it kind of still gives you like a false sense of security in that village, because you just feel like your brothers and you're kind of just like Aladining your way downtown. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I did think with the starting the game with the mom dying, I feel like the dad's gonna die now, right? Now it's just gonna be like just two brothers. Like that's probably gonna happen, right? And then it didn't happen. But that is the one thing. I was expecting the dad to die.
yeah,
So
yeah,
but then that didn't happen, so I was wrong on that effect.
Disappointed.
just disappointed. And what I like about this first village sequence is, I don't know if you did this, you waited until the bridge, but almost every character you interact with, if you do an interaction with the little brother versus the big brother, and this goes throughout the whole game, they interact with things differently.
Yep.
And I think this village kind of like paints the little brother as kind of like immature and just kind of like a little prankster,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love seeing those characters. Can we talk about like the little details?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Okay, because I know you want to like talk about like
Specifically
the village.
to the village.
Yeah. Okay,
right
great.
now.
Good. Because the little differences in like how they interact with objects and characters and things and concepts is really interesting. You come from like you literally come into the village after seeing your father like it's literally about to die and how to save him, and the brothers are already like kind of peppy, upbeat, and when like you go to interact objects, they have different reactions. For example, the bigger brother will go up to a bird cage, be like whistle with it, and it'd be cute. And the little brother just goes, "You I
Oh.
thought." It's such a funny detail, but like it truly does like give them that character without the use of words, but with more through actions. What's another one that you guys can think of? Like
The
genuinely,
harp.
the harp.
The little brother is
Oh,
good
the
at
harp,
playing the
yeah.
harp, but the whenever the big brother did it, it sounded like garbage.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember that.
that's a funny
Yeah.
little moment.
That
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the stuff with the townspeople, like he'll like, there's a dude sweeping and the kid will like do something to he's just like pulling pranks on all the villagers and they're like, oh,
Right.
get off
Oh my
my
god, dude!
lawn.
I think I must have spent like 10 minutes trying to make that basket with that little basketball
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I did that
I
once.
could not
Yeah.
figure out where to, and I finally did it, and then like a little achievement popped up. But I probably spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to get that in the goal.
Could you imagine if it didn't give you an achievement? You
I
probably
would
would
have
have
been
quit right
so
there.
mad,
Yeah.
dude.
You're like, I'm gonna go back to Alice.
Uninstall.
There's
Yeah,
so
come back to
there's
Alice.
so
Yeah.
many like little
Uh,
details like that you could easily miss too.
Yeah. I mean, for example, a lot of the trophies are attached to like optional things you can do within each
Yeah.
chapter. And I don't think I even did all of them. I'm almost tempted to go back and just go through the level selector and do those little things. I think I only
Yeah.
did about half of them. But yeah, I think all the interactions with like characters and items, it's really entertaining to kind of see what the brothers do and what the differences are. And again, like I really feel like in this game, like all the gameplay loops and all the like interactions really feed into like kind of overall narrative and tone, and it just works really really well in a way you don't expect,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't realize it right away, kind of what they're doing
It's got that synergy.
in that way. And like you alluded to, Izayah, you start getting eureka moments by the end of it, and you're like, oh, that's why they made this decision. That's why
What-
this is like this, or it's really cool in that way.
I'm
But
sorry
yeah,
for jumping ahead for that.
so I think the village is like a really fun little section. You get the benches for the first time, which gives you like a nice little scene and pan out.
Mhm.
And again, man, I encourage you. It's only $20 and it's like a 3-hour game. I would totally suggest to go back and play the remake because all those pan out scenes look freaking incredible with like all the volumetric fog and the lighting and lumen and all the stuff that the new Unreal does. That game is the remake is really breathtaking. But I think the village is like a really good example, just like introducing you to like little puzzle mechanics. I think the little section where you're trying to distract the dog, it doesn't
Oh
seem
yeah.
like it doesn't seem like a very threat, even though the dog catches you, you're like, oh, I guess he just murdered them.
Yeah.
But you get through the village and you're like, oh, that was like nice. And then you get anything else on the village that you guys can think of
Yes.
you want to mention before we move on?
The biggest difference between like the original and the remake is that the original was made with Unreal Engine 3, and also this is like I'm sourcing this from like Digital Foundry's video as well, and of course like the remake was made with Unreal Engine 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think it's really cool when you compare the two games, like side by side, gameplay wise. You get to really see the emphasis on the emotions and expressions and new camera shots in the remake that add more flavor and context to like the characters themselves, including like the NPCs and whatnot. Like I
Oh yeah,
think
it's
that's
very
really fun.
cinematic. It's very, very cinematic
I
in the
love
way
it.
the original wasn't. But I don't think cool thing still is like the original versus the remake is it doesn't like either one you play like all the emotional beats and the game itself still work,
Yes.
It's just you get I think it's great that you guys can go back and play, the remake now and just appreciate it all that much
Mhm.
more. But next, I think what's really interesting is you get to the cave, and I don't think the game really shows its hand that this is like has like supernatural kind of fantasy stuff going on,
Mhm.
till you see that first troll. And at
Yeah.
first you're like, oh, this thing's gonna like try to eat me or whatever, but it ends up being friendly. But that's kind of your first wink or nod that like, hey, this is not like just straightforward reality,
Mm-hmm. It's a little touch of fantasy and makes it kind of like more interesting, I guess, gives the world a bit more
It
depth.
does, and it just kind of shows. I kind of like how the game unfolds, like little aspects of itself as it goes. Like it doesn't just like show all its hand up front. Like like they're not like this is going to be trash. Do you know how like most movie trailers and even game trailers are these days? They want you to like almost get a feel for everything that's in the game before you touch it.
Yeah.
You
This one's
know,
kind of hiding
and
its
this
hand a
one
little bit
it
more.
really rolls out that stuff in a really satisfying way.
Mm.
So yeah, you get to that troll. The cave. I think that the cave is a really cool environment. This is the next chapter where I think it's your first taste of like a lot of puzzles.
Yes. Like
Um,
the pipe one.
yeah, and the pipe one. And what do you guys think of kind of like the puzzles in the game?
I think
Didn't like them.
oh.
I'm not surprised you would say that, Josh, because
I
you
thought
like intricate puzzle games.
yeah, there was these puzzles where there's like nothing there. There's nothing to them. The most disappointing
Yeah.
part of the game for me, puzzles. I'm glad we brought it up.
Nice, which is funny
I
because
do.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say the opposite, where I feel like I enjoyed that. There's a tiniest bit of friction in the puzzles, not a lot at all, like you said, but
Yes.
that keeps the narrative rolling, which is
I mean,
What
I guess like I think I agree with Josh, but then part of me is like, oh, with how complicated the controls kind of are, like having to keep them like separated,
Exactly.
and yeah, I feel like maybe I would be more frustrated if I was having to do more things, with the puzzles. So I really don't even know where I fall technically, but I
I know where
feel
I
like
fall.
I wish they were a little
you're
bit
like
more involved.
Colton
Mm.
is indifferent. No, yeah,
Howard.
I get it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I get what you're saying, Josh. Like as a puzzle game, like if you're like, oh, this is a puzzle game,
I wouldn't
it
call
would
it a
be
puzzle
very,
game.
yeah, I wouldn't
It,
either. It would be very disappointing.
I would easily like just call this game like simply like a journey game. Like it's a
Yeah.
very like
Yeah, it
you
is.
touch and go. Yeah. It's
It's a narrative adventure game, but I think it at least gives you something other than to do than just to hold forward.
Yeah.
yes, I agree. And I think
Um,
go ahead.
like I said, like it really a lot of the puzzles reinforce the differences between the brother or how the brothers are growing, throughout their journey.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of again like everything in this game is in service to like its narrative and story and everything. And I think the puzzles are very similar in that way. And I will say, like, I'm not like crazy about them either. I wouldn't say these are good
It's
puzzles,
like
but
Lego game level puzzle.
totally, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Um, but yeah, the cave is definitely where you kind of first get that, and I think it's just a really cool area where I like how they roll it out, where it just kind of seems kind of empty at first. You're like, oh, it's just like an abandoned cave or whatever, and then as you slowly go, you start seeing like in the foreground like these giant like trolls mining, you know, and you're starting to get the sense of like, oh, this might not, you know, there's you might not want to run into these trolls while you're in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and going throughout the cave, I think it leads you to that first boss fight, quote unquote boss fight, which is like I said, all the boss fights in this game are kind of like the puzzles where they're kind of very one note and short, which I don't
Very
mind.
short.
You
Yeah.
know, like I wouldn't want to like try like 15 times per boss with this game. You know what I mean?
Maybe like at least 2 or 3 times would be nice.
At least 2 or 3 times. And I think, I don't know about you guys. I kind of came into this game a little differently, just like knowing all the beats, playing it before. I kind of see that the cave is just it's still not like showing its hand about kind of the, like I said, like the melancholy kind of tone like the rest of the game kind of gets. You're like, oh, okay, that was like a little friction there. That was like there was an actual boss fight, like it. But I still think the cave is just kind of, it's kind of still what you expect.
Sure.
Kind of
Yeah,
compared to the village, you're like, okay, I'm starting to get the tone of this game. This is like fun, kind of light. You know what I mean?
Kind of like The
yes.
Hobbit.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Like,
like,
oh,
this
this
is
is like
still
a
kind
fun
of like
adventure.
a chipper story, but they're all like troll slaves, but it's still like a happy, a little happy story.
Yeah, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Like, it's like,
The troll
yeah,
couple, they
like, oh
got
look,
back together.
they have mushrooms growing on their back. Look how charming. It's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of does give you that like light fantasy feel. Totally. I think The Hobbit is a great example. Um, but I think almost immediately you get. I'm trying to remember what the order. You guys played it like sooner than I have because I've already forgotten some of the order or stuff. When you get into the woods, do you automatically have like that river rapid section?
Not immediately. I think it kind of eases you in a bit better with like the
That's right. You
torch
start at the
gameplay,
campsite. You start at the campsite.
the wolves' eyes and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. Yeah.
The wolves out. It's not okay. So where the game really starts to get going, and where you really start to see like, oh, that's dark. In a way I wasn't expecting is you start at that campsite. You start getting surrounded by wolves. The big brother gets the torch. Just another example of like, okay, the big brother is the one that's gonna be the protector here.
Right.
The lead forward. But at a certain point, you get to these trees, and there's bodies hanging. Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
looks like they had been like lynched, Like they have a mask over them and I think that is the first moment in this game where you're
What the heck?
oh, what's actually going on here,
Mhm.
So was that moment memorable for you guys for
Yes.
playing it the first
Yeah.
time?
It was like 3 hanged people, right? Like it was
I only
in a round
remember
tree.
one.
I think it was. I want to say it was 3
Oh, I
because
think
like
Well,
two.
I'm thinking of the person that you like actually watch like hang themselves.
Oh,
I
that was
think that's
later on.
that's crazy.
and that is the first, Josh. So you're jumping ahead. Like you're like, oh, that's kind of dark. Okay, I'm still gonna keep going. I think it's
Wait,
not until that.
what section was that in? Because I felt like
That's the
that's where we
castle.
were.
That's like near
Yeah,
the
that's over
castle.
by the castle,
Oh,
I think.
oh, is that like the entrance to that area?
Yeah, because you're like
Yeah.
near like a big
Oh,
chasm
okay,
or like
my
like a
bad.
valley or something.
I didn't know there was any other hanging people. I
So
missed
right
that.
at the beginning of the
Right, this-
wolves, you do that is in the background. It's
It-
not
it-
like making a big deal out of it. The brothers aren't reacting to it, but it is like the first moment where it's kind of giving you like a wink and a nod of
What's to come?
buckle up.
I think I
Yeah.
was on autopilot through the wolf section.
Sure, sure.
I didn't
It's
really
pretty
understand what
short.
was going on. I was like, fire.
Yeah. And I think you get to the wolves, that does lead into that rapid section where like the
Yeah, it
brother
does.
needs to get on your back.
Which I didn't
And
realize.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
died the first time there.
you're like, what did I do wrong? So yeah, that is I think that might be the first moment where you need to do that. But after this rapid section, I think there's that really trippy
Dream.
scene,
Yeah.
dream sequence where again, I know actually this might be the moment where you're just like, okay, this game's weird. Like this game's getting dark. Was you
The,
get this
like
weird
the
dream
big
section where
mother.
the brother wakes up and his mother is like laying on this island and she's like 100 times larger than you.
And she
And
picks you up and like brings her to your face, and
Hey,
like
what's up with that?
the dad's body's just there, like dying.
yeah.
And then when you
And
go to
then
like, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, the moment you try like interacting with like the mom and the dad, you try to go save the dad because he's clearly not supposed to be here. And this is right after like that river sequence. And then like as soon as you go to him, your brother, your bigger brother, rips you away from him, throws you to the ground, and just starts throwing hands at you. And like you're fighting back, you're barely holding on. And finally it cuts to like the bigger brother, like shaking him, waking him up. And the little brother's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like he's like hyperventilating. And like they just hug. They just hug. And it was like, what did I just watch? What was
Yeah.
that?
And whenever that happened, it made me think. I was like, you know what? The way this game started with the little, like the flash, like the little brother on the boat with the mom, and then what I just went through it because like it was like a dream sequence, but it looked like the big brother was like out of it. Like he was not participating in this big, big mom vision. And then he had the little brother had the dream, big brother like trying to kill him. It made me think. I was like, oh, this seems more of like his story, not so much their story. So it got me kind of thinking. Like I
Interesting.
was like, what are they gonna do? Because this
That's
definitely
cool.
seems like it's kind of more, like the big brother is more like the companion here almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. That got me thinking after that sequence
That's cool.
happened in the game.
I really like
Yeah.
that.
And looking back at that sequence, I wasn't thinking about this then, but I'm thinking like, oh man, what's the point of that sequence? Like, obviously the big brother or the little brother was dreaming about it. And the way I kind of like interpret that scene is that he feels kind of guilty. Like he thinks that maybe his brother like blames him for his mom's death,
Yeah.
and
Oh
like all
yeah.
the bad of the
Okay. Yeah.
family. And so I read that as like him maybe feeling that way. And then you kind of think back and you think of like, okay, all the interaction with the little brother, he's kind of acting out, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And stuff. So that's kind of how I read that sequence is just like a kind of like an internal monologue and them explaining, not that's the cool thing is they're not directly explaining that. That could not actually be the intent, but that's just kind of my read of that is that he thinks his brother may like, secretly blame him for the death of his mom and, his dad getting sick, all this other stuff. So
I
I
agree
think
with that interpretation.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's just like a really cool out of nowhere scene too. Um, yeah, it's just yeah. And the thing about this game, it's kind of what we talked about with Inside too. Is this game loves to do like one time things,
Yeah, like
I mean,
And then you
once
never do it again.
yeah, and I really I appreciate that. Like it wasn't like and there were 3 more sections where he dreamed and more bad stuff happened. It was just that one section, and it was just really well done. But yeah, so you get out of the woods, and then it kind of when you wake up, you start going through this whole mountain section. And I'm trying to remember, it's not until you don't get the guy that tries to hang himself yet,
no,
right?
that's actually
He
no,
gives
that's
you
actually
time.
immediately. I'm pretty sure it's like kind of like immediately.
Yeah, I think it is
Okay.
immediately after that.
You stumble upon
The
this man like this who
vision.
like yeah like you stumble
Yeah,
upon him.
I want to hear like what were you guys' thoughts about that? Because did you just like be like, oh, it's like a little cutscene or something, or did you know right away you're like, oh, I can interact with this. I need to
Yes,
interact with this.
I
I
immediately
tried,
knew
but
that.
I don't. Can you save him or anything? Like,
Yes,
Yeah. Oh,
yes,
did you
Well,
just
he-
walk
absolutely.
by him?
Did you?
no, dude.
Oh no.
No, I tried, but nothing was working.
Oh no.
So
I
what you have
caught.
to do,
Oh,
this is
whatever.
great. This is great. I didn't know that was an option. I thought he
Me
would just
neither.
like struggle till you did. That's cool. I didn't know that, Josh.
Yeah,
That's dark.
it was dark. I was like, well, I tried, but I guess he's gone.
So the what you can do is you have the bigger brother hold the guy's legs,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and while you have the older brother or the younger brother climb up the tree and release the rope.
Okay.
And
As-
if you do that, he just kind of breaks down and cries. And did you guys go further back?
Yes, so I saw him point
Yeah.
towards like this rubble, and I saw two like
Mhm.
corded like burnt bodies. But as like he's crying, he's
Oh
pointing.
my god.
So I go down onto like that hill, and then like I go up to that burnt building, grab that music box, bring it to him, and he stops crying for a moment, and then it cuts
I did
to like
not do that.
to the grave, to like them mourning together their of the two dead family members, I assume.
It's
And they
definitely
have
his wife and
They
kid too.
they help him bury them. If
with
you
the red.
I
That's
didn't
nice.
do that.
It's
Dang
so
it.
beautiful. I did not know that was missable. I thought it was mandatory.
that's really cool. I didn't know that either.
That's
I
so
knew
cool.
I guess I kind of figured you could have not handed him the music box, or maybe it would have took you back, but I didn't know
Mhm.
that whole sequence was missable too. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense because there are missable
Yeah,
things within
like
the
the sheep.
story, but that's a big moment. That's like a yeah. Well, that's funny. Josh was just like, well, that sucked.
Yeah. Well, I think I figured out what to do just a moment too late because I was like, my kids were doing something, and then like I looked over and like the guy's struggling. I'm like, oh god, and like I'm rushing over there. And first, I walked the big brother up the ladder, and then I realized, oh, I'm doing this backwards. So I moved him down, but then he just stopped moving. So I was like, oh, he's gone.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
Wow.
cool. Yeah. Well, that makes me appreciate that sequence a little more now.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
man.
yeah, just I guess it kind of shows overall too, like even after playing this, I'm like, this game's short enough. I kind of want to go back and get all the trophies because the trophies are attached to all these missable things you can do. So that'd be worth it to me. And again, there's different versions of this game you can play that give you a different vibe for sure. But yes, you get through that sequence, and then it kind of we're not going to go through all the nuances of the different puzzles or whatever. But you get to I think
What
next is you
puzzles?
get to the inventor, right?
Yes, and you like throw each other the gear, get up top there, and you start to glide, right?
So yeah, there is a little optional puzzle to the left you can do where you're
Oh
like playing with
yeah,
wind and stuff, and
yeah.
that is something you can actually miss. It plays like a weird little
Oh,
song.
I did do that. Yeah,
It was
and the dude was
cute.
just dancing.
Yeah, you can make the scientist dude dance, which is
Yeah.
fun. Um, but yeah, he kind of gives you by the end of figuring his puzzle, he points you in the right direction. I do like that like a lot of times when you're interacting with people with the older brother, he's asking for directions like 50% of the time.
That's
Yeah, that
true.
probably does. Yeah.
But yeah, he takes you to the paraglider, and then you get this kind of cool paragliding sequence. It was the one time, I don't know, I don't remember if it was like this in the original. It was the one time I felt like there were a couple times during the game where I felt like the checkpoint was kind of sucked.
Really?
And this was one of them
Oh,
because
no.
Oh
there was
yeah.
a bulk of land I thought I was supposed to fly on in the
Yes, me
sequence.
too.
And he just died, and I was like, oh, maybe I didn't float high enough. And I did it again. And then I realized, oh, I just need to totally go around this. But it
Yep.
takes you to the very beginning of that sequence every time, not even
I-
like a
It
halfway
does.
point.
I thought that sequence was not fleshed out enough, and it was too short. So I don't know
Yeah.
what you mean.
Well, if you die, you have to do it
Yeah, it
from the
sucks.
beginning, which sucks.
And that makes that reminds me, I didn't get to talk about it, but in the cave with the troll, boss fight, you know how like there's the two boss fights where one you have to trap him in the cage and then you have to
walk
him
across
break
the
the chain.
bones. Yeah.
Well, the I don't know if it was supposed to be like this, but the checkpoint was so bad. I did the boss fight where you trap him in the cage and then you move on. And then, right before you leave the cage, the other troll comes in and you have to make him like break the chains, and then you open up the floor and he falls down.
Yeah.
I did that, and then I went over to the troll cup when we were leaving the cave, and like a cutscene was about to start and the game just crashed.
Oh,
And I reloaded the game and it took me right back to like the first boss fight. Like
Oh, that sucks.
that freaking sucked. And then the gliding thing, I had to do that 3 times because I died twice. And I was like, this is taking forever. Like, where am I supposed to go? And I didn't even try to land on that one thing. I assumed I was supposed to go around it the first time, and I went all the way to that big island or thing behind it. But I don't know what I did different, but like the first time I just died. So then the second time I was like, oh, maybe I do need to land on that big piece of land in the middle. And then I died again, and I said, okay,
Yeah.
let me try the first thing again, and then it worked. But I didn't do anything differently. So
Right.
that was a little frustrating.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that would be like one of my strikes against it. It's a couple checkpoints are not cool because it's a lot of times you're like, oh, that's not my fault. I was just trying to figure out what to do. Um, but yeah, you get that paraglide sequence, and then you hit the floor of the castle at this point, I believe. And I think actually, as far as the mechanics go, like the puzzle mechanics, I actually thought the like attachable rope to the brothers was probably the most fun
Yep. I was about to say that.
thing to do. It's just fun to swing around, and it feels nice, and it's cool. It's cool.
The only thing that was interesting about utilizing they're trying to control them both at the same time. Like I was like,
Right.
why didn't we get more of this?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's funny when I said like you just see a ton of this in It Takes Two, like a lot, like oh, that's probably where they got this mechanic from, and they really fleshed it out.
Yeah.
So everything in It Takes Two, like in this game, where you're like, oh, they should have fleshed that out, they should have done that. They did it in It Takes Two and took it like 10 times further gameplay wise,
That sounds
which is
good.
really interesting. But before we move on, sorry guys, we're gonna take a quick break. And we are back. So we were just talking about the rope swinging section. So you're making your way up the castle. And you guys, we did mention that that was kind of our favorite like mechanics thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. But when did you guys realize like everything on this castle is like way larger than human sized?
I mean,
I
like
did not.
immediately, I was like, why is it so big?
No, I did not notice.
For a second, I didn't either. Yeah, like for a while.
Yeah. You might not notice till you actually get to the point where they make it very obvious. So you're going up this castle. You're hearing. Are you guys hearing at this point? I'm trying to remember. Are you hearing like
The
the distress
horn.
call from the bird, or is it?
Yeah,
the alarm?
Yeah.
I think it's a horn.
Yeah, I was hearing something like.
Okay. Yeah, like a horn and stuff. So you know you're like working your way up. You're more than likely going to find something up there. But it is until you get up there you like enter like kind of like a Jack and the Beanstalk type like
Yeah.
bedroom. You go in a bedroom and everything is like gigantic. Like absolutely gigantic. Like the bed is huge. All the tables, the books, the furniture.
And I'm like anticipating a giant just any moment. I'm like, there's got to be one giant living here,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
nothing. Just
Which is
quiet.
fun. Yeah, which is fun because I do like going into this room and kind of like Toy Story. Kind of reminds me of like Toy Story games and
Oh,
stuff.
I love this stuff. Tiny
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh yeah. So you're climbing up all this like like this bedroom stuff that's huge, and you find out like the noise you were hearing, I believe, is this trapped bird, almost like this kind of griffin looking thing.
Mhm.
But obviously it's like in distress, and I forget if it's like the younger brother or the older brother that wants to help it. It's probably the younger brother.
Probably.
And they make it so the younger brother can squeeze through the bars and like do the main, actually help it out the most. But so you free this bird and you realize like I know in the remake they make it super obvious like he's injured, like he has blood all over him.
Oh yeah, there's blood everywhere.
Okay. And in the remake, this is by far the most impressive model like in the game.
Really?
Like the bird looks freaking incredible.
Is it still like an owl cat?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's more what it is. Yeah, it's like an owl cat, but in the remake version, like you can see every single one of his feathers are like bristling. It looks amazing. But yeah, so you free this owl, and then and so you get to the top to this tower, you free this owl, and does something start coming your way? Is that why they take off suddenly?
Ooh.
Do you guys remember?
So no, I think they just I think
They
they just like
just-
hop on and then jump out a window.
Yeah, it kind
Okay,
of
yeah.
confused me. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
I was
So
like,
the
what?
owl, I think the owl is just like, okay, you guys are cool. Like,
But
let's
he's
get
like
out of
injured.
here.
How is he just like gonna carry us?
Yeah, and he does. I forgot about this. He does carry you, and then right away when you like, the boys are having fun, like they're laughing and stuff, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is like really cute or whatever. And then you land, and the bird is just dead.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's dead, right? Like,
Yeah,
he,
dead, dead.
he totally dies.
Okay, what? What happened?
Yeah, well, it's funny because at the end of the game, they're like, psych, he lived. But
What? But that's what's I'm so confused. Is that the same
I don't
one?
know.
that's the same bird. That is the same bird.
Then
Why-
what was he doing? Why was he just lying?
They just want you to think he's dead, and you do. Because I go up to him, I go with both the brothers. I'm like, oh, this is the bummer.
Check-
Like that thing was
check
super
for
cool.
A pulse or something. They just like, left him in the cold on the
They
ground.
did. They did. So the next, you just like you leave your mount. You just leave the bird, and you're like, oh, that's super sucked. They killed the cutest thing in the game so far. um, but I think at this point, do you guys remember? This is where my order of events get a little murky. I think at this point you're going back up this mountain. Is this the goat sequence where you find the little
I
goat farm?
loved the goats for like the 2
goats.
seconds you ride them.
Yeah, this is a really good sequence.
Oh no! Sorry, I didn't want to get it wrong. I'm looking up just like a full gameplay. They go straight into like you see a bird like chipping at a giant's toe.
Oh,
There's
okay.
dead
So
giants
it goes
everywhere.
straight. So that must be the goats must be afterwards then.
Yeah, I thought the goats were next, but
Oh, that
yeah,
makes sense because you're going up to like a snow peak, like a kind
Oh,
of
you're
the-
right.
I
Yeah.
believe you're doing that. Yeah. So yes, this is probably out of all the chapters and areas, I think this one was the most striking when I
Most
played.
interesting for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. You walk into this area and yeah, you like see a leg or a hand or something and it's massive, and you walk into this area and it's like it was like a battle between giants, and it's clearly over, and there's just like dead giant bodies everywhere.
So this moment made me question the whole game. I was like, wait, are we just really small?
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah, no, it does give you that moment of like, what is going on here? And the thing I like about this section, as far as like puzzles go, is the puzzles are at this point, like you're like, okay, this game is dark, like that. There was a lot of blood in the owl scene, but I wouldn't call it like gory or violent up to this point,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
even when something catches you or something happening, kind of cuts away. But
Well, the guy hung
some,
himself.
oh yeah,
Didn't
I mean,
save him.
You
I
let
mean,
that
yes.
Oh yeah,
But you're like
game
not
was a little
actively,
darker for some, more of us.
you're not actively like seeing limbs hacked off and like
Wait,
it's not
didn't y'all
that
say
type of
y'all
game yet.
you saw like burnt bodies though, right? Like
Yes.
I feel like we
Yeah,
were
but
edging,
they're dark.
They were
closer and closer.
covered with a sheet though.
And
Sure.
then the bird was covered in blood.
The craziest part about this section is how the puzzles work. You're trying to
That
just
work.
get through this battlefield, but all these dead giants are like in your path. And a lot of the solutions in this are to like knock down giant axes and cut off their limbs.
Yeah, that
Probably
was
my
like the
favorite.
Shoot
the
a
third or
crossbow.
fourth one.
Oh, the crossbow one is insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
Where
mean,
you're
directly in
arming
the
this
forehead.
a giant crossbow and just nailing one of them in the head and
The whole body
knock them
flopped
off.
backwards.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and you're like climbing these dead bodies. You're seeing, you're chopping off their limbs. You're like the river is pretty much like turning into blood as
Yeah,
you're
so
going.
I actually started thinking, I'm like, oh, does he get a sickness from the blood? I thought
Oh, interesting.
maybe, but
Oh, I
no.
didn't think that.
No. And the blood does come back into it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the first time where you're just like, holy crap, that's kind of like a crazy set piece. Like I can't think even now I can't think of a lot of other games where they just hit you and you're like, oh, I'm like carving through these dead bodies to get where I need to
Yeah.
go and stuff.
Well,
It's pretty memorable.
there's a lot of violent video games out there, but yeah.
Sure. Just
This
a
one
game
makes you
that
think
started
about what you're doing.
and it just makes you think about where the game started too, like the
Yeah.
village, like playing, like if you just played through the village and then all of a sudden you just got like taken to this area, you'd be like, what is
Yeah.
where did we get to the village to this part of the game, you know?
Yeah, I remember
I-
during the crossbow part, after it hit him in the head, I was like, man, I feel like 5 minutes ago I was just trying to make like a basketball goal. So big, and I'm like shooting
The game's
giants
short enough that you
in the
probably were.
forehead. Yeah, that's true.
I was gonna say it's so short that I almost didn't bat an eye. I was like just kind of going along playing, like I'm gonna get through this in 3 hours. It's gonna be great. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like hacking this arm
Just
off.
10 minutes ago, I was saved by a bird. Why am I cutting his arms and limbs?
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I really love that it doesn't like you're not like stuck in that area for an hour to where you get desensitized to it.
Yeah.
You know, there's maybe just 3 or 4 of these that you really interact with. You know, I remember it being in the old version too, but they have some really cool pans where you're sitting on a bench and you're just seeing like,
Yeah.
you know, like just like hundreds. It's not. It probably doesn't show hundreds, but it makes you feel like you're in
Yeah.
a field of hundreds of giant bodies, which is really cool.
I liked the benches. I forgot all about those.
The
I tried
benches
to
are cool.
sit at as many as I could because they had
Oh
like
man.
unique like interactions or whatever.
Oh, dude, yeah, and the remake again, like those benches are even they even make it way more dramatic. Like the camera
That's
pulls
cool.
out like thousands of feet back and spins and stuff. It's really
I
arresting.
didn't think that I wanted to replay it, but maybe someday I'll try that out.
Yeah, it'll go on Game Pass itself or go on sale.
Right.
It's only $20 like to start, but yeah, I would say it's definitely worth it. But so yeah, you get through this giant section, and then Colton, you have it pulled in front of you. I'm pretty sure this is where you work your way up to the goat farm, right?
So you get to the end of the giant section, and then you kind of pull up to like a cliff, and you see like the blood waterfall.
Yeah,
And then you see
yeah.
like the people down there like doing like a they're like a cult chant.
I think we're unfortunately past the point of goats.
Okay.
No, I don't have the goats happened.
I don't think so.
Maybe the goats happened.
They happened during
Maybe
like
they have.
the mountain where you meet the engineer. I feel like that's what happened.
There's
Yeah, I
still
was
a
gonna
castle
say-
part after this though.
There would have been because after the cult, that's where the girl joins your party at that
Yes.
point. So that would have been before the goat. So we
Okay,
missed a
that's
section.
true.
There's just
Yeah.
I mean it's just a quick like 5-10 minute thing, but it's fun. It's just a
Yeah.
fun section where you're riding goats and it kind of auto controls, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about like
Okay, yeah, I'm going through the
platforming and
video
stuff,
now.
but-
It's right before the inventor guy.
Oh, okay. So we just totally went over it. I could have swore it was later, but cool. So I just forgot that the goat and the paragliding section were so close together.
Yeah.
So okay, enough about the goats. There's goats. They're cute. It was fun. But okay, cool. So yes, at this point you get through. Okay, so you fall down this waterfall, right? Into like maybe like a river of blood. Like you come out and you both are like
Crazy.
covered in blood. So yeah, and I don't think you get. I think you walk around bloody for quite a while until it makes you past this like clear river, like waterfall section, kind of washes off you. But yeah, right away you're looking down and you're seeing like now it's not giants. Now you see like a tribe, like almost like a tribal cult.
Yeah, it
And
got
they
very Diablo all of a sudden.
Right, yeah, and they have this girl on like a is it a cross or it's some sort of
It's
symbol.
like a weird like
It's like a witch's like
Yes,
burning
yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which should have been your first clue there, but it shows this girl. It
Spoilers.
shows she has that like weird necklace that they kind of show.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I didn't notice
I didn't
that in the
notice that at
original.
all. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
it
watched
zoomed
the
in on the
episode.
necklace.
In the
like,
remake, they
that
make
scene.
it very obvious that she's wearing some kind of like cultish symbol around her.
Yeah.
neck.
Interesting.
The moment I realized that like maybe we shouldn't be saving her was I think during the
Oh, it's
whole
so good. I love how they slowly.
slowly okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm jumping ahead just a teeny bit, but let me just
Sure.
say when she's in your party and she's like with you, she becomes the one leading y'all. she literally makes these massive jumps. I'm like,
I thought she was helping.
bitch, I thought, are you just that athletic?
Yeah, but she's
We
jumping.
can't make those jumps.
Yeah, she's like
That's a
like
good point. I thought it was just a weird glitch.
No, immediately I
no.
was like, "Oh, what?" I was like, "What are you?"
again. I'm
You're
trying to
not-
remember. I mean, obviously, if Isaiah noticed it, it's a little weird. But in the remake, they make it very obvious that she is like jumping
normal.
way higher, way faster
Yeah.
than she should be.
Yeah, I don't
You know.
think,
Oh.
in my opinion, it wasn't as obvious in the original because it's like,
Maybe the
you know,
animation.
the lower, like the lower fidelity graphics and everything. You're just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this kind of fits the bill.
It's less the graphics; it's more the animation in the newer one that makes her almost like spider-like, or
Oh,
like
and,
the way she's jumping is like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's creepy.
and
Like,
and I
what's
think
going on
I
there?
think they made it. I think they had to have made it obvious, right? Like in both, because you're like doing a puzzle to the little brothers on one side of the wall trying to like drop a bridge
Uh-huh.
or something, and then you do that puzzle, and then she just jumps, and I was like, "Wait a minute, why? Why?" Like I
How
could,
did
like
she
the
do
big
that?
brother couldn't do that. Like, why did I have to solve a puzzle to jump that huge gap? And she was like, "Okay," and just jump 30 feet.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel like that was a pretty big
Not
sign.
real, man. Yeah.
They're kind of going that way. But yeah, we are jumping a little bit ahead.
Yeah,
So you
sorry.
don't realize at first, you just think like this girl's being sacrificed, and you're like, oh, okay, we need to save her. And I think this is what puzzle I had to do a couple of times because I had to remember what to
Really?
do. I didn't see that cutout right away. It's not as
Oh.
obvious. It's not as obvious in the remake because all the
Blood.
everything looks really organic. So even
Oh,
like the cutout looked kind of like part of the
Yeah,
stonework.
I kind of got lucky looking at the cutout, and I was like, "Oh, I can do something here." But I didn't know that you were supposed to soak yourself in blood. So I was like, "Okay, I'm doing the, he's on my shoulder. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go out there now." And then they ought to turn around and stab me with a spear, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Holy shit.
I was
Yo,
like, "What am I?"
guys.
So
I
what
like,
was
am I
the
supposed to
point
do?
of that? Like, what happens if you do it successfully?
So you
Oh.
scare them away so you can lead her away, like free her. So you
Okay.
make them think you're like
The god or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the symbol on her necklace, it kind of looks like them. Like they make their limbs kind of look like that. And so they think they're like some kind of god
Yeah,
until she frees them.
I straight up don't think she's wearing a necklace in the original.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Can I call attention to something real quick? I'm
Sure.
watching the same gameplay Colin's watching for the remake. Dude, look at the ground where like the ritual is happening. It's like a spider-like body. You see the
Yeah,
fangs, the
yeah.
two circles, the rivers of bloodstream.
Yeah,
That's
they
just
straight up.
like,
Yeah, they straight
holy
up like they're
shit.
trying to tell
Yeah,
you.
dude,
that.
you guys need to play. I kind of love that you guys played the older version first because it like when I say that remake is like legit, it is super legit.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so
Man,
cool.
this looks so ugly.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Ah, that's
Um,
cool.
No, especially the ice section in the remake too. The way the ice and the
Oh,
water looks and stuff,
yeah.
it's legit.
Tasty.
Really, like it's the
Baja Blast.
environments. It's the environments
Yeah.
that really get like a big upgrade. But so yes, you free her and you guys run away, and I think that's when you get on a boat together.
Killer
Like
whales and
yeah,
such.
you're running
Yeah.
away. So yeah, you're all of a sudden like in like a frozen area. Like you get this boat section where you're kind of avoiding this whale. You're not avoiding it, like you kind of are, you kind of aren't.
it
You
got
do
me once.
at the
Like,
end, you do need to avoid it a little.
yeah.
Yeah.
I never had it
it's
catch
cool.
me.
And they're like
I
I
was
said,
trying to figure out like what I'm like. I almost was like, okay, how do I get it to catch me?
oh yeah,
Like, do I need to do this? And
I think
everything I did, it never like I never died, and I was like,
it does
okay.
at the
I'm
very
keeping
end, I
going.
think.
Well, it spawns really randomly. Like, it got me like really early, and then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't even try to run into it now. So I don't know.
There's a point where there's like I think this is in the original too, but there's like a little mountain peak afterwards that you can interact and hit the triggers, and they'll make whale noises, and they'll make the whale
Yeah,
jump
yeah,
really dramatically and gives
Oh.
you an achievement and stuff. It's cool. But yeah, it can kill you, but I don't think it does it right away. But in this section, it's not story wise, but it's another one of those optional things. I think I did it in the original, and I missed it somehow this way. But you can like save the sea turtle and find its mate. It's like another optional thing you can
There's
do.
a
I missed
sea
that.
turtle.
Yeah, I missed that completely.
There's a giant sea turtle that you can that you can its
Oh,
mate is trapped and you can free
wait,
it.
I remember like seeing a sea turtle out of an egg or something. Was that?
Yeah, you can interact. You can interact with them and do a little puzzle, and
I just
it
rode right by
reunites
that.
them. Uh huh. That's
I think I did
I'm
too.
probably gonna go back and do all that stuff in the remake because I did miss about half that stuff. So, but that's not story relevant. So you do this thing, and then like you guys said, you get to the second castle, and as you're walking, you're starting to see like what at first kind of just looks like someone carved like ice sculptures.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
And then it becomes obvious that like, oh no, these were like people.
but it's weird, right? Like it's not just people in like being people. These are warriors. Warriors.
Yeah, it was like
our-
they were like in the middle of like a siege, like
Oh,
they were
like
like
a
Yeah.
war,
warring the
yeah.
castle.
But
Yeah,
it just froze completely over as if a dragon, instead of burning them alive, froze them.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So you don't get an idea of what happened. You know, like, okay, yeah, obviously they were in the middle of a siege.
Yes.
But and whatever they're doing, it happened like really suddenly. And I think it is that monster. Whatever that monster is that comes up,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that ended up freezing them, or they like woke it up or something. It's not clear, but yes, there you get up to this, and then that's where you start noticing like, oh, this girl's like she's doing stuff she shouldn't be able to do. I think there's one point, I don't remember if it's right then or not, but you know how you had to use the older brother to like pull stuff?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
She does one of those actions and she does it like super effortlessly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
really?
with one arm, it just goes like cranks it down and it's good. And that's like another one of those moments you're like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, she starts doing like weird like acrobatics and jumping, and you're like, what is going on? And I think that's where the brothers start kind of bickering.
Yeah.
Like you
A
can
little
tell
bit.
the older brother has a crush,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and he starts being kind of a jerk to the younger brother, you know?
I wouldn't say
And
outright, but
he's
like
not outright,
he's like
but
neglecting him.
yes, yeah, that's a better word for it. He starts like neglecting her, and the little brother's starting to get like frustrated, you know?
Yes.
And maybe he's a little bit more suspicious of her than the older brother throughout.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That one cutscene that happens where they're well, he's like, no, we should go that way, and the girl's like, no, let's go this way. I was
yeah.
like, oh man, I have a bad feeling. Like I like this little brother. I don't know how I feel about her yet.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, so you do that whole castle sequence. It's like a monster chase sequence, which again has another bad checkpoint when you have to run away. It makes you sit through like an unskippable cutscene, which kind of sucks. But once it's fine. Yeah, I got through it. Once you get through that whole section, you kind of have to like do puzzles, escape the monster. You guys end up doing that, and then you kind of get to the destination. Like, oh, there's no other path to go but forward, and there's just like a hole in the ground. It looks
I
like
had
this little cave.
I had a question.
Sure.
Was that monster, was it invisible for everybody or is that a glitch?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's invisible.
It's
Okay.
invisible.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
and speaking of that monster, I think they're also like upping up like the brutality of the game because I did get caught by the monster as the big brother, and you know like something invisible was picking him up, and you can tell like his body started to get twisted, and then his neck just snaps, and
Oh,
then
wow.
like I was like, oh my god.
Oh yeah,
I was
because
like, this is way different than a dog catching you in a backyard, and you know the screen like you know it just kind of
Blanks out.
restarts. Yeah. I was like,
yeah, it's super brutal. The animation there, yeah. But yeah, you get through that. She's off, like you said, Isaiah. That was a good point that she starts leading you.
Mhm.
And what she leads you to is what looks like a hole. And there's this whole cutscene where she's telling you to go. The older brother is all for it, but the young brother's like, nah, like nope.
This is weird.
Yeah, like I don't like this. And then you get into the cave, and really quickly, like it turns into like a Shelob Slayer type situation. Going back to the Lord of the Rings,
Yep.
and yeah, she turns into this like really gross spider-like thing.
Yeah, looks you're disgusting and remake, dude. Oh,
Oh yeah, the remake version of it.
God.
It's real nasty looking in that version too. But yeah, I mean, they get captured. I think it starts up by like the classic like you got caught in the cage scenario,
Yeah.
you know. And so yeah, you just you work together to break free, and one of them's in this ball. Is it the younger brother that's in the ball?
Younger brother in the ball, but like the older brother specifically was like taken out of it. So now you have to like use the arena like it's a Beyblade ring. If you, and
Kind
you
of,
like,
yeah.
you just like come up really high and swing down and push her aside.
Yeah. So you're just like one by one, like using the older brother to like rip off her legs.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, that happens. You do it, and then there's the pivotal moment in the story, um, where I forget they is she like almost dead, and then
Almost
that's
dead.
right, she like changes her face back to the girl to like put his guard down
Hmm.
for like half a second, and he kind of puts his guard down, and then she just like she stabs him in the stomach pretty much with her
Yeah.
stinger.
That did not come across whenever I was playing. I don't think there was any face
Yeah, no.
changing.
So the original had it to where the two
Oh.
last appendages, there was a third one we missed, and that one just immediately just stabbed him as she
Yeah.
The
died.
remake, like a new one comes
Wow.
out of her chest,
That's
Yeah,
way
I
cooler.
like
see it.
randomly. Yeah.
It's gross. It's bad.
She still
Yeah,
looks
it's
like a
real
girl
nasty.
the whole time. She's just a girl with a like spider like
Oh, really?
thorax.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
There is
Yeah.
a moment in the remake where they show her face going completely normal for like half a second, and then he puts his guard down, and then that's when he gets
Ugh.
stabbed.
It's bad. It's like
so
through the stomach.
freaky.
And then
That's way
she
freakier.
just kind of shivers and dies.
Yeah.
And at that moment you're like, oh holy crap, like at that moment, did you guys like I know Josh you knew, but
Yeah.
Isaac Cole, did you just think automatically
Uh,
like, oh, he's dead? Or
I
did
had a
you
No,
feeling. I had a
I can
feeling.
save
'Cause-
him.
Well, no, I'm sure a lot of people did, but I still had that feeling from earlier. Whenever, like that little vision with the mom happened, and I was like, I don't know, this really is starting to feel like it's more like a story about the little brother.
Back
I was like, he's probably not gonna live through this.
the layering on that Colton is so good because like then you realize you're not moving with the left stick anymore. You're purely moving with the right stick at that point. As soon as you get
yes,
stabbed.
the first time in the game that you were just moving one character like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird. It's kind of weird, like because you've been playing the whole game that way, and all of a sudden you just don't have to think about it. That is a weird little mechanic. But yeah, like you guys are going dragging, and then you guys find like the life tree, where because the whole point I guess we didn't set up that the whole point you're going to do is you're going to get medicine for your dad. This is the whole point of the journey. Did we mention that?
No,
I don't think we
didn't.
did.
We just
Oh, wow.
mentioned how
Okay,
the
we
dad's
did.
dying.
Yeah, Dad got strep throat. That's it.
Yeah, right. And he keeps there are cutscenes throughout where it shows the dad
Oh
getting worse
yeah,
condition.
Just
there
now,
was a
stuff.
cutscene whenever the other brother gets stabbed. It goes back to
Yeah.
the dad. He like wakes up like clutching his chest, and
Yeah.
he's like stumbling around the room.
Yeah. So so you guys get to the tree. It looks like it kind of does like a cut, and you can tell they've been walking for a while, and the older brother can't go on. Like he's looking bad. And he points. Does he point his brother towards the?
Yeah,
His
he's
brother
like,
doesn't want to. He
Yes,
hands
go
him the
for it.
flask and says, "Go." Right.
yeah. Then
and
he's like, no, I can go, and he's like, go.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
it's kind of funny though, and this scene originally, when I went through it, the character like placement was glitched. So
Oops.
the little brother is supposed to be at the bottom of the like shot, or like left the shot, talking to the bigger brother on the ground. But as for me, the little brother was on the complete opposite side of the big brother. The items, the expressions still work the same, including the animations. The places were just kind of like swapped. It was really weird. I reloaded the cutscene and it worked fine. But that was like my first glitch in like the port.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Maybe that PC port. I mean, that's a 2013 PC port. Like,
Yeah.
you might have been using like Windows 7 for that. So yeah, I'm not surprised the port is maybe aged poorly on PC. But so yeah, he says go forward, and then you're controlling the brother and you're climbing up this tree until you get to the top, right? And he
Mhm.
fills up the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think is that the moment where where you're like, oh, do I have to climb back down? And no, you have like this big slide, right?
Yes. You also
So-
pass by like a nest.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't notice that. It was weird.
Oh yeah,
Um,
there's like bird nests up there.
Oh, okay, sure. So you're I wonder if maybe they were making a clue that like owl birds are like live there or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good point.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought.
I guess I didn't think about that till now. But yeah, you get down to the slide and he sees his brother and his brother is clearly dead. The older brother.
I couldn't
Um,
believe it.
and he tries, I don't know if this is in the original, but he tries to give his brother like the medicine. And,
Yes, he literally like gives it all to him. I think.
uh,
No,
I
Well,
think
not all.
not all of it,
because-
but a good amount. Yeah.
I think he would make the climb again just to refill it. That's my
Sure.
personal canon.
But yeah, like there's that's like the pivotal moment, and then it does a bunch of super cuts of him like kind of grieving, like digging a grave.
I did not expect I was going to do that.
Yeah, no, I thought it's really well done.
Yeah.
Where you're digging and then it does cuts every time you're carrying the rocks over. It was probably just so they didn't have to animate the rock stacking or whatever. But yeah, it does a cut every time you do a rock, which I those cuts make you feel like time has passed, so it works. But yeah, I mean, how did that moment hit you when like the brother officially you're like, oh, he's dead? Like,
I thought, how the hell am I getting home? And also, we just lost two. He just lost two family members, and this time it's not. It's not in the reason where originally where like he felt like he was in control. He could have saved his mom. This was out of his control. He was completely powerless again, and it kind of like eats him from the inside. Like this is like another defeating moment for the little brother, and I think that's really sad. And I think it's even sadder how we get. I don't know if it's a dream, it's hallucinating, if he's grieving, obviously grieving, but we get to see a shot where it turns away from the big brother's body to the little brother's perspective, or away, or like towards little brother's perspective, and you see the bigger brother stand up, hug him, and as like we turn against the shoulder again, the body's dead again on the ground. And I think that it didn't hit me originally, but now it's hitting me now, like just him grieving and processing the emotions. Oh my god, my brother's dead.
yeah, and it doesn't show the ghost of his
Yes.
brother at that point. Yeah, he's like he's kind of saying goodbye because he
Mhm.
kind of leaves his body. Like that's a moment where I think does he start walking or does the bird come in? Like he just starts walking. Like you have to move the stick and just move on, which feels super wrong. Like
Yeah, it
again,
does. Yeah.
like you'd been controlling both of them this whole time, and like I said, the way I played it, like the older brother led just about every time, you know. And
yeah,
so that's like it's like a moment there where you're like you're moving, like you're there, you know, he's not alive, he's not coming back, he's dead, and you just need to go, you know.
It's so sad how like the bird just instinctively knew.
But yeah, it shows him walking for a bit, and obviously I think it shows that he's like probably not going to make it home at this point.
Yeah.
And then the bird you saved at the castle you thought was dead comes back into the scene, and he just kind of climbs up it, you know, like you could tell he's pretty defeated and done. And
Well, the bird hugs him.
does it?
what?
Yes. He hugs him immediately. He's like, "Oh, I know what happened here." Like
Huh.
he literally hugs him for a
Is that a
moment.
cutscene or do
Yeah, what are you talking
you
about?
do that?
That's literally a cutscene. That's part of the
Oh,
cutscene.
okay. That's probably you're still looking at the remake then.
No, that's
Uh,
also the original.
Oh, okay. Interesting. But yeah, so he does the bird, and then it at that point does it play the whole cutscene where it shows
Yes.
him and the bird going past all the areas
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
with the music and stuff, and that's really cool. That's really well done. It's still like super melancholy, and then I think a storm hits, right, or he
Yeah.
lands you pretty like you're so close to getting back to your dad with the medicine, but then like a storm hits, and they give you the moment where you have to cross the storm hits. There's this big body of water you need to swim across to get to like the next bit of land. Like you can see the lights from your parents' house, like on
Mhm.
the top. And I guess in this moment, how long did it take you guys to realize what you needed to do?
3 minutes. I was.
Uh,
Go ahead.
oh, no, no, yeah, you're good. Go.
I was just saying, at 3 minutes, I was walking around and I was like constantly thinking to myself, why am I not the left stick? Why am I still the right stick? And me and Colton talk about this, and I'll talk about it later as well. But I was still controlling with the right stick and the right trigger. And then I was like, no, I should be the left trigger. I am now the primary. So I started holding it. And
I'm the
everything.
alpha.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
go ahead,
not how
Colton.
I didn't think I am now the primary. I'm just thinking, no, I couldn't do this on my own as the little brother, but my big brother taught me, he taught me how to swim. Like, what if I use like the big brother input? And I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, it works. So it's like, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the cooler moments of the game.
I think
Absolutely.
that is the moment the entire game is building up to.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that is the climax of it, is that moment you realize, holy crap, like you have to, the button you used to for these obstacles for the big brother, for the little brother, you're now pressing, and it's giving like the little brother strength to overcome these
Sean.
things he couldn't have done before, that his older brother did for him, but now he's like in there almost like in spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think does it do like audio cues of the brother's voice when you're doing those inputs
Yes.
too?
Yes, it does. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Josh, you had a thought, right?
I was just gonna say, I wish that it took a little bit longer to journey back as the little brother.
Oh,
I
sure.
I think it would have been more impactful if you were to have to use what you've learned from the big brother, like through a longer process. Like, it felt like it was just a one moment, and I kind of wish the little brother get to, like, I don't know, have his own full journey almost. I wish the game was like another 2 hours as the
Another.
little brother.
Oh, interesting. That would be
Interesting.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
kind of liked how it did it. It was like, you
It
get what happened. He died.
Yeah.
He learned, he learned from his big brother, like everything he needed to learn.
Right, because it has a sequence where normally you'd have to like have your brother like lift you up, and
Yeah, then he does like a running jump.
like
And
a
it's
like a
great.
big jump, and there's
It's great
is there a
because
moment where he does like a lever or something, and he just
Yes.
like
it's the
powers
first
he
through it?
area like redone, but with little brother and his by himself.
Yeah, I guess maybe 2 hours would be too long, but at least like another 20 minutes of like
chapter, maybe just
another
another
section.
chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I get that. Because they did that super cut of him, like, they could have done it differently, where like they super cut you to each area and you did like those actions.
Oh yeah.
You could have done that, but this one is just like a really quick, like, this, here, like, do the you can do this, like, you can do this now.
I wish you ran
So
into the trolls again.
yeah, it did show them on the flyover.
Oh, I was probably looking at my phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
I
like waved at you as you're on
Oh,
the
that's
owl
cool.
thing.
Yeah, it kind of hits all those beats. So yeah, finally, he gets the medicine to his dad. He kind of collapses on the floor. Like in an exhaustion, which makes sense
I like
after
that.
everything.
Mhm.
And then I think at that point it cuts. Does it do a flashback of like his father, like the older brother fishing with his father and stuff like that?
I think
That was before. That is when the owl died, or supposedly
Oh,
died. The little brother's crying, and the big brother like looks at one of the feathers that it dropped, and he picks up the
right.
feather.
We skipped that. Okay, yeah, and he does kind of like a flashback of.
Uh-huh.
Got it. Okay, cool. But
You know
it just goes to show, like, okay, like, obviously the dad really, cared about his older son, all this stuff. But I think so yeah, you hit that, you wake up, and then I think at that point, does it just show them both, like, there's another gravestone next to his mother's?
Not yet. There's a cool shot of the little brother kind of kneeling down at the bay of the ocean and on the coast. Sorry,
Uh-huh.
right. It starts a shot off with a broken down ship. It's a wrecked
Oh,
ship,
right.
and I was like, "Is that the boat we originally had our mom died from when we were out to sea?" And now the little brother is kind of just right here, sitting alone and just grieving, and then
Yeah.
he gets up and walks up to the hill to the father.
Yeah. That's right. So you get a little more play with the brother, but yeah, it ends and it kind of ends on a sad note. Like they're both at the grave, and now it's its father's turn to grieve.
Yeah.
And
And he just
little brother is
collapses.
comforting, and then it just kind of pans out and goes to credits. You know, but I think the big moment is like now the big brother or the little brother is that that was kind of his journey, like you said, Colton, like by this point you knew the whole game. If you didn't already figure it already, you did right at the end there that
Yeah.
like all this time this game, the main character of this game was the little brother, like seeing his
Yeah.
story from kind of the pranks, the village prankster, or the kid that was acting out, to the kid that made it through the journey and saved his father. And so yeah, I mean, it is a melancholy ending. Obviously, there's not like a super happy ending there, but I think the ending is really effective and good, and like it ends and you're like, wow, okay, cool. um
Yeah.
but I guess my question to you guys is like, overall, we haven't really talked about like what's your overall thoughts on the game, like playing it today, and if it still holds up, if just kind of what's your overall feeling on the game.
I like to start by saying originally I thought this game was like very short but sweet moment of like oh, another journey like game. But now I'm thinking about it, and I think about what makes Journey, Inside, Limbo, all these games so special despite the short runtime. And I just think about how they keep the games fresh constantly. There's always a new idea introduced and then dashed away with another idea and another, and they always add more to this world. They always give you like they kind of spoon feed you the details, not too much, but just enough to where you kind of like keep going, and then you start seeing the bigger picture. Like in Inside, the scientists that diorama of the entire ending of the game, like the secrets you find, or in Journey, like just overall the world building of the culture, what was left of this race. And in this game, it's this war, this kind of like sad and like kind of torn apart world where you're kind of going about this journey of reuniting people, giving them closure and moving on. And I look at it now and I'm kind of sitting with you guys. I'm talking about this. I'm just thinking, wow, this game is genuinely like I won't say a masterpiece, but what would you say, like something akin to that, something close to that, where it stands the test of time, even from 2013 to 2024. It's still special, and I think it gives that it deserves a solid high rating for it. It's lovable. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a game I that kind of for me, it's more than just the game itself,
Yeah, right.
Like you take out all the story, you take out all the narrative. I mean, that's what this game is. So it's kind of unfair. It would be a pretty unremarkable game, even
Yeah,
maybe
Yeah.
boring, you
Yes.
know? But it kind of is more than like the sum of its parts in a lot of ways. And my favorite thing, and it still holds up today, my favorite thing about it is, and I've said a couple times, just the way it plays its hand, the way it
hmm
kind of's been like, it just, when you're looking at the chapters and the way they introduce themes, the way they introduce like the conflict, the way they introduce mechanics and stuff, it just all seems very purposeful. Like kind of like you said with its runtime and stuff, Isaiah. But yeah, it's just it just overall, you end the game and you're like, wow, that was like a really well thought out, complete thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, Josh, Colton, any parting thoughts on it?
Well, I
Hmm.
mean, it it was very like you said. I think the story was very effective, at least towards the end of it, for sure. And that was really nice to see. It was nice to. The more I played, the more I appreciated the fact that there was no dialogue that you could translate or understand. It really made you kind of think, and you kind of had to like pay extra attention, to try to figure out exactly what's going on. And that part was nice. Man, I really wish I played like on a console or if I felt like I messed with the settings a little bit. Maybe I could have messed
It's
with them
on a
more.
nice Unreal Engine, like barely runs on a Series S, and that's quite a bit more
Yeah,
powerful than a 970. So yeah, I don't
dude,
think you were gonna
it
get
so like it ran
the
so
performance you
bad that
wanted.
that I liked the game, but I also hated every second of it.
Oh,
Like
yeah, that's a bummer.
I'm underplaying how bad it was. I
I
had
know.
like
I
I
bet.
had the little like frame, the little like frame counter up in the corner.
Yeah.
Uh, at the start of every cutscene, half of the cutscene was 1 frame per second. I mean, so
Oh.
it was,
Oh, that's
it was,
unplayable. That's like near
yeah,
unplayable.
it
Oh,
is.
that's a bummer.
Yeah. So I kind of wish I just got, I would have had a way more of a positive experience. I had to like I could tell like anytime I opened it, I played it in two sittings, so both times when I did it, I had to open the game and it took like 10 minutes for it to launch. And I found out you let it launch, let it take 10 minutes to launch, and then I would just immediately exit out and then relaunch it, and it would take 30 seconds to launch. I'm like, oh, and it's running a little bit better now, and it launched quicker. But it's still, it crashed on me 3 times, but I purposely like looking past a lot of that. I really enjoyed it, and I thought the story and everything was pretty effective. So I came out of it pretty positive, despite all
Yeah.
the other stuff.
Yeah, and even on PS5, if you don't have a VRR capable display or like a 120 hertz whatever, the Digital Foundry pretty much says like, hey, play it on the 30 frames per second mode. Like
Yeah. Oh
even
yeah.
even
Okay.
on like because I think it even runs it at like it's a pretty low resolution too. Like that is a heavy game for the PS5 even. And so yeah, it's just a heavy game because it's Unreal. There's
Yeah.
Unreal Engine 5 is getting
And
better almost every iteration and more performant, but it's
mhm.
still like kicking a lot of mid to low end GPUs
Yeah,
as
and I
well.
really,
So
I really should have listened to because the reviews on Steam, I think, were pretty. I think it was definitely leaning towards negative because of how it ran. But I just
yeah,
thought, oh, these people. I mean, they're probably like trying to push it out like the crazy settings. I'm just gonna launch it and I'll turn it down. I'll turn like everything down and just play it. But even
yeah,
turning everything
nah.
down, it still didn't work. So I kind of wish I just listened to the reviews and got it somewhere else. But yes,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So yeah, if you just watch some gameplay or something, you kind of can see like, oh, okay, it is a really good looking
Yes.
game. But yeah,
Mhm.
but cool. Josh, any
Um,
last thoughts?
yeah, I think overall I enjoyed it. I
Sure.
do agree that the story is probably the best part. The only thing I was really
Oh yeah.
disappointed by were the puzzles, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I genuinely I don't think you can call them puzzles. I think I
No,
think
no.
the game is a
They're
journey,
brain dead.
and
Yeah.
I think what the studio is going for, I think they nailed it. I think the story still holds up. I I do think that with a remake, I I would have rather them like flesh out some of the gameplay or maybe even extend some of the storytelling, um, making some of the sequences a bit longer. I think
Hmm.
the story
Oh
is
yeah.
worth. I think the story is worth that. I think it tells a good story, and I kind of wanted to be in it longer to appreciate those deeper moments more because I felt like sometimes I was just in and out, and I kind of
Mhm.
wanted to sit with those emotions a little longer.
Yeah,
You know
I
what it
would
reminded
like
me
an
of?
extra 30 minutes of that giant section. Like that would have been
Yeah,
freaking cool.
I would
Love
love like for like the Plague Tale team to like like fully flesh
interesting.
out like a Brothers game because that's the kind of like vibe I get from it. Like a
Yeah,
Plague Tale is kind of like a modern, almost like a modern thing, but
it's cut from the same cloth for sure.
somewhat, yeah. But I could see that like if they could put that sort of like work into it and flesh out cutscenes and dialogue, but not still have it be effective and everything. It
Yeah,
it could be really cool.
I still feel the same way about that gameplay though, where I'm
Yes,
like,
yes.
there's nothing here.
And the thing that's wrong
Yeah.
with Plague Tale is its length way overstays the gameplay. That's
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
problem
yeah.
with that game is that game could be a lot shorter and this one could even be a little longer. But yeah, no, I would have loved, like you said, a full on like remake. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm glad that I came back to this game, finished it, and I'm like, no, that was still a really cool game,
Yeah.
like real unique game, you know.
Indeed.
So yeah, I'm glad you guys. Because I've mentioned it before, like on the podcast and stuff. I think
You have
early on, I was like, man, that'd be a good like, we play game. That was before the remake was even announced.
Yeah.
So the minute it was announced like a few months ago, I was like, oh, we need to do this.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity to do this.
I mean,
so
I find it odd that we hadn't all already played it, even though I was one of those. It's such a legendary game at this point.
Well,
Like,
Troy did.
right? That we all didn't play it. I mean, like,
Oh,
Right,
okay. My
right.
bad. I'm sorry. Okay.
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
just it's so many critics like go to for like heartfelt like indie title.
yeah. It does, and it does that really well. So, but yeah, awesome guys. Well, thanks for playing that and being here to talk about it. I'm glad I like these because now we can walk away and be like, oh man, like we all played this game. Like there's very
Yeah.
few games we can sit down and talk about where we're like, no, every single one of us has played this
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
And liked it.
and liked it. Yeah, that's the key too.
The next one's Death Stranding, right? You already started. We just gotta catch up.
Oh
to you.
God. We'll see. I'm trying to go into it like a lot more welcoming and I just be
Open-minded.
like, let's do this. Take me for a ride, Kojima. But let me tell you, that first 2 hours is so freaking slow. I started to restart it and I was like, ugh, like.
Or you can throw pea grenades.
I think I'm getting to the point where they explain that.
Okay.
Yeah, that D2 trailer is just so insane and cool looking that I was like, God, I can't believe he made me want to try Death Stranding again. I was pretty set on being like, yeah, I don't need to play that. But yeah, getting off topic. Well, let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining us on another episode, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye bye. Go Mavs.
Bye.